That's good. Thank you, Dr. Hurst. Hold on, I got some. My hot mess. All right. Good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to our board meeting today. To access translation, please click on the globe icon below, or at Dejan, you can go to the corner of the room to get translation. We are heading into our closed session for tonight. Before we do, we are here to listen to any public comment there might be about our closed session items. The public gets 2 minutes for public comment per speaker. The closed session items that we will be discussing are conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, conference with legal counsel regarding existing, do I have to say these government codes? No? Okay. Conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation again. Conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation. Do I have to say those? No, I'm good. All right. Public employee discipline, dismissal, release, and complaint, public employee appointment, and student discipline. We will reconvene. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Great, thank you. We will reconvene for open session at 6:30 tonight. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We are extending our closed session until 6:45. We will be out at 6:45. Can they hear me?
Yeah.
They can't see me though. It's President Smith Folds. Thanks, bye. Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to our board meeting tonight. To access translation, please click on the globe icon below, or at Dejan, you can go to the corner of the room to get materials. We are returning from closed session. After our opening procedures, the public will have the opportunity to make public comment. The board has changed the public comment format. We have opportunities on non-agenda items in person, through Zoom app, and by telephone at the beginning of the meeting. Public comment will last 1 hour. The time allotted for each speaker is 2 minutes. If you are attending the meeting in person, you will need to submit a request to address the board form to indicate your desire to speak on an agenda item. After it's been turned into staff, they are placed in order of when they are turned in. We also call on speakers one at a time and alternating between public comment at Dejan and on Zoom. If participating via Zoom, you will need to raise your hand by clicking the appropriate icon in the Zoom app or by pressing *9. If assessing the meeting by phone, no yielding of time or substitution of speaker is permitted. The public will also have the opportunity to make public comment on agenda items after the staff presentation for each discussion and action item. The public will have 10 minutes per item and 1 minute per speaker. Due to the Brown Act, board members cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda and do not usually respond to items presented in public comment. Now let's move to our opening procedures. First, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, if you're willing and able, please rise. Dr. Hurst, if you could do that for us, please.
Yes, ma'am. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy. Now we'll move to the land acknowledgement. If you could do that for us.
Absolutely, President Smith-Folds, thank you. We recognize that we are presently on the lands of the Chochenyo, Muwekma, Karken, Ohlone peoples, and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy.
Thank you very much. Now we move to the labor and body recognition. I acknowledge that the burden of the environmental exploitation and systemic injustices fall upon the labor of Black and brown bodies in the building of this country and its institutions. I remember that Black and brown people were born and died working this land against their will for generations. I also acknowledge the continued contribution of the labor of survivors over the centuries to today. of all immigrant labor, including voluntary, involuntary, trafficked, forced, and undocumented peoples in the building of what we refer to as the United States. Agenda approval board. For tonight, we are doing 3 questions per board member and a minute and a half for comments. If there are no objections to the agenda will be adopted. Do we have any objections to the agenda? Oh, look, I messed up. Hold on, friends. Boop, 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 boop. Welcome procedures, pledge of allegiance, Lynn. We recognize Lynn Bonnie. Let's see. Oh, got to do roll call. All right, hold on, everybody. We're backed up. We are back up to B4. Roll call, Dr. Hurst, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. President Smith Folds,
Good evening, everyone present.
Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Good evening, present.
Trustee Reckler,
Good evening, I'm present.
Trustee Phillips, absent. Trustee Christian,
Good evening, President.
Trustee Cypress-Sert, she is present, and Trustee Callip.
Good evening, President.
Thank you so much.
Can we make sure that Trustee Cypress-Sert's little microphone is working, please? Trustee Cypress-Sert, they're coming to check it out, okay? They're gonna try to figure it out. We are now on B5, report and ratification of closed session.
Thank you, ma'am. Regarding agenda item A2.1, the board voted to approve settlement OAH case number 202-3100748 by unanimous vote with Trustee Phillips absent. Regarding agenda item A23, the board approved proceeding with the writ of mandate filings pending in the Court of Appeals in the CW versus WCC USD and J. Doe AMM versus WCC USD cases. Regarding agenda item A25, the board approved the appointment of Catherine Acosta Proproskas as interim executive director by unanimous vote with Trustee Phillips absent. Regarding agenda item A26, the board voted to clear the expulsion case number 212-211 by unanimous vote with Trustee Phillips absent. The board also voted to clear the expulsion case number 222-305 by unanimous vote with Trustee Phillips absent. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're gonna move to B6, public comment. I've already read our public comment information. Staff, do we have public comment?
Our first comment is Don Gosney.
Good evening. You know, the WCCUSD has a longstanding tradition of paying tribute to employees that have passed on. I would never try to take away from the tireless service of any employee, but it's not always just staff that have an impact on our district. One such person was Anton Younghair. Anton left us a few weeks back, and I just wanted to stand before you and say a few words about him. Anton could be a real SOB and a pain in our collective rears. And that's what made him such a value to our community. It's great to have community leaders who can get along with everybody, but we need community leaders that know when to get in the faces of people responsible to the community. Anton lived and died the WCCUSD bond program, more so than just about anyone else. Anton served on the WCCUSD Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for 10 years with an emphasis on the audit subcommittee. He frequently asked numerous questions about our audits and demanded responses. As a result, though, numerous WCCUSD staffers and even CBOC leadership would try to silence him. Of course, this meant that they were actually trying to silence the public. And that never helped to rebuild whatever faith and trust the public once had in the WCCUSD, the Board of Education, and the bond program. The West County community needed and still needs someone like Anton to look over the collective shoulders of the people tasked with spending $2.4 billion of our taxpayer dollars. Not only is this a lot of our money, but because it's borrowed money, it means that by the time it's paid off in 30 to 40 years, it will have become some really serious money. As an old guy, I'll get to pay for these new schools for the rest of my life. But so some of you youngsters, you may be able to tell your grandchildren when the debt is finally paid off, but it's very likely that even more debt may be encumbered. And that debt will need people like Anton to help ensure it's spent in a manner the taxpayers agreed to when they voted for the bonds. As someone who has served on the CBOC myself for 10 years with an additional 15 years off to the side as a mere member of the community, I've valued my alliances with Anton. We work well together. Anton was my friend. I'll miss him as a friend and as an ally. I hope this board, district staff, and the public will realize just how valuable he was to us all. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Pam Talou. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm an adult education teacher here at West Contra Costa and also a member of our Adult School Teachers Union. I love working in this community. I love my students. I work hard, but it's getting kind of insulting to be employed here as an adult educator. I watch this district negotiate with our union and spend a ton, hundreds of thousands of dollars on fancy lawyers who just seem intent on keeping us from getting a fair contract and a much needed raise. Do you know how low our pay is here as adult educators compared to surrounding districts? Our starting rate is $34.92. Human Resources tell us they can't hire people at that. When I went on EdJoin and looked at what other districts were paying, Oakland, for example, starts at $46.50 an hour, more than $10 more. When I calculated the average for all of Alameda and Contra Costa counties, it came to $45.60 for starting salaries and even more for the high end. We need a 30% raise just to get to parity. But the last offer on a contract we voted on was only 8%. We need a fair raise now. I'd ask the board to please instruct the district negotiators to reach a fair agreement with our union with a fair wage for adult ed teachers now, even if it's before a full contract is ratified. The students can't really wait and have classes that don't have teachers. Thank you very much.
Our next public comment is Delon Harrison.
Good evening, board. How are you guys this evening? I'm here because I want to make sure that you guys remember that you're supposed to educate all children and that you guys had instructed our past superintendent to address our Afrocentric school. I need you guys to make sure, please put that on the agenda and make it a priority. Do not put our Black children in the back burner in your budget cuts. Bring them forward. The programs and services and educators that service our Black children, and we need things to stay in place. We need more. So please put our school as a priority, and please make sure that the superintendent understands that we need options in our district and we want them to be provided to our children as well as all the other children. Thank you, and I'm complete.
Our next public comment is Rebecca Milliken. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rebecca Milliken, and I'm a parent in the school district. I'm deeply disheartened to see a censure item on the agenda tonight of one of your board members, Leslie Reckler, my representative. Whether or not the allegations are true, a censure feels extreme. I first met Leslie Reckler at a Korematsu orientation night over 10 years ago when I was new to the district. Leslie was volunteering. I later learned that Leslie was always volunteering, serving our students, families, and the district through multiple roles on the PTSA, as a speech and debate parent president, and on the board. A censure, unless the behavior is truly harmful, is not the way that we should treat our board members and should not be the way we treat Leslie, who has served us for so long. I read through the resolution and the quote allegations, end quote, and I don't see in any way how Leslie Reckler had any personal gain by these actions that are described. Perhaps she made a procedural mistake, perhaps not. Regardless, I know that as a parent in the high school speech and debate program for 4 years, Leslie was the one who always elevated proper policy and procedures. She talked about policy and procedures endlessly. Across our society, we see that when people disagree with others, they take to bullying, misrepresentation, lying, and sadly, even violence. I believe that our board can do better and model for our community and for our students the role of civil discourse. By centering my representative and removing her from committees and appointments, you limit her ability to be an effective representative for me and the thousands of others that she represents. You are limiting our voice. There are so many more pressing issues facing our district. Please vote against this censure and get on with the important work that you need to do. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Mark Schultz.
Good evening, trustees and district. Trustees Phillips, Gonzalez, Hoy, and Smith Folds, for you to vote to censure anyone would be hypocritical. You have all exhibited censurable behavior. Let me remind you, the discussion in agenda item E1 tonight says that conduct that is merely rude, discourteous, or offensive is potentially subject to censure. And bylaw 9005 says each individual board member shall act with dignity and understand the implications of demeanor and behavior and govern in a dignified and professional manner, treating everyone with civility and respect. For about a year and a half, the public witnessed board meetings peppered with open confrontation, sniping, arguing, belittling comments, disrespectful remarks, and similar between trustees Phillips and Smith Folds. Why have they not yet been censured for violating bylaw 9005? Number two, the U.S. Supreme Court case Cohen versus California makes clear that the mere use of vulgar or profane words is not grounds to revoke one's First Amendment right to freedom of expression. Yet in March 2023, then board president Gonzalez Hoy not only violated the public speaker's First Amendment right, but also denied him his right under the California Brown Act to deliver public comment to the board. Trustee Gonzalez Hoy abruptly silenced him, that is the speaker, because he disliked the speaker's word. Neither your feelings nor board policies can trump the public's lawful rights. Why wasn't Gonzalez Hoy censured for these violations of protected rights and violating his oath of office? You all speak of equity. Explain the equity in censuring one when your behavior has arguably met the criteria for censure. Do you consider yourselves above board policy and consequences when you violate them? If either of you three vote to censor Trustee Reckler, then you will have placed the mask of hypocrisy over your face and should walk in the shame of your action. I request you abandon any censure of Trustee Reckler until you have all censured yourselves for your deserving offenses. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Jean Kinster. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening, board. I'm Jean Kincher, and I work at Verde Elementary. And having a clean classroom environment is very important to me. Now that we're in the winter months with COVID, RSV, flu, and other such things going around, it's even more important. My students deserve a clean classroom. I'm asking if the board could help with this situation. Some time ago, I'm sorry the janitor didn't give me the exact months recently to tell me how many, but more than 2. The head janitor was out, and when he was out, his sub took off with some of his equipment. Some of this equipment are the 2 different buckets and the 2 different cleaning sticks used to clean the toilets and sink. Now we're back to 1 bucket and 1 stick for all the toilets and all the sinks in the school. This is kind of disgusting, and I don't think it's very sanitary. On a separate occasion, I guess the scrubs crew had come in and helped the night janitor. Again, a good chunk of her equipment is now missing as well. The day janitor had said they had requested from their supervisors to please replace the equipment that's missing. It has not been replaced. He had also mentioned that when someone questioned him as to why he wasn't using the fancy floor machine, that it's broken, and it's been broken since it was unboxed. I beg you, please help our janitors get this equipment replaced, fixed, and sorted out so that our school can have a clean school environment. Our students need this, our staff needs this. We can't afford any more students to go out sick, and we can't afford any more staff to go out sick. Thank you very much in advance for anything you can do to help solve this situation.
Our next public comment is Lorraine Humes. Ms. Humes? It's okay.
Can you hear me? I didn't realize I only got a minute. I gave you a written comments. Please read those from me. Tonight I speak not for the CBOC, but as a member of the CBOC who has dealt with Trustee Reckler in her position as the board's liaison to our committee. The Trustee Reckler that I have worked with was professional, open-minded, and went out of her way to make sure she got feedback from all the stakeholders in the matter. Ms. Merriweather's complaint deals with Trustee Reckler being biased for SAF and against SNAP space. The two fundraising choices mentioned. I think we can assume Trustee Reckler volunteers with SAF because she wants to support school activity programs for the students. If El Cerrito High School chooses to go with SNAP Race, SAF still has several other programs for which to raise money. Do you think it's really she's protecting the funds drive? The resolution, the other material dealing with Coach Bishop, Mr. Graham, and Trustee Reckler's accessing a computer. That does not pertain to this complaint. It does not mention anything about SNAP race versus SEF. In conclusion, I stand with Trustee Reckler and ask you to veto this. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Alamo Brown. Please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to say good evening, board. This is Rodney Alamo Brown, community advocate here in the city of Richmond, California. Great news to report. Student athlete Javon Bowles from El Cerrito High School is just now returning from the Blue-Gray All-American Bowl in Dallas, Texas. What a great experience he had. The outfit comprised of former NFL players who are now coaches for the high school game, which is played annually in Dallas, Texas. Javon was nominated by Soulful Softball Sunday to be a participant in the bowl game. He learned a bevy of things, garnered great experience, met new friends, and above all, he played a wonderful game. He scored the game's first touchdown on a 1-yard scamper. He's the first person from the state of California to score in that particular game. So we're extremely proud of him. He also has a scholarship offer to attend Clark University in the city of Dubuque, Iowa. So he's looking forward to going there in the fall and continuing his higher education and other things of great interest of Point. Also, next year, we'll be teaming up, hopefully, with the West Contra Costa Unified School District and sending more student athletes to this particular bowl game as we will start the inaugural Dalen Foster Memorial Scholarship Award that will entail 5 scholar athletes from various high schools within the sector of the West Contra Costa Unified School District to be a part of this wonderful festivity that will take place January 9th, 2025 in the city of Dallas, Texas. So let's give a round of applause and the big ups to Mr. Javon Bowles, who also holds, or shall I say, boasts a 3.3 grade point average as a wonderful student athlete, as well as the vice president of the El Cerrito Black Student Union. Thank you so much, board. Aloha.
Our next public comment is Andrew Wilkie. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, good evening, board. It's Andy Wilkie from Richmond High School, music teacher. You know who I am. I'm speaking tonight to bring more awareness to the fact that our district staff is proposing to cut half of the music department teachers. That's right, folks. 10.4 positions, of which I presume are elementary and music teachers. I'm very concerned. None of the administrators assigned with handling visual and performing arts has said anything to the teachers about this until we brought it up after hearing about it when I luckily heard about it on the last meeting. It's concerning. I know that the Prop 28 is coming and that we just got our allocations today, which we were banking on being able to re-journal some of that money to pay for trips we did earlier this year, since the funds clearly would be able to pay for those trips, and it was implied to us we would be able to, but now we're told we're not. Perhaps that's in the law, I'm not quite sure. But the district has already has been showing a pattern of trying to misuse these funds and go against the spirit of this law. This is Prop 28. The law clearly states that the district is not supposed to fire positions and rehire them with this money. The law clearly states this. One of my biggest concerns is that when you do this, because I'm sure you will find a way to get around it, the district being, I know most of you on the board are art supporters, but you're going to ruin all sense of coherence in our music department in our elementary schools. We're one of the only departments in this district that works elementary through secondary coherently. I speak to my middle school theater teacher almost every day. I'm very concerned that this law is going to be taken from something that's meant to enhance our programs and enhance opportunities and be used to take them away. The $40,000 repair budget is very important and is going to impact every site if you take it.
Our next public comment is Robert Mandel. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening, board. My name is Bob Mandel. I'm an adult ed teacher on the union bargaining team. As you know, we've been bargaining for almost 4 years, and in the last 2.5 years, the district signed off on 30 articles. It has now repudiated its signature on every single one of those articles. I'm speaking tonight to urge you that just as you overrode management on March 15th letters, and as you overrode management when they tried to cut playground supervisors and you've protected jobs, that it is time to direct management to honor its word and honor its signature and proceed with the negotiations with those 30 articles intact. I want to point out that in the last 10 months alone, the district spent $149,164 on lawyers to block us. That would have been about an 11% raise. Now, in an unprecedented move, management is planning to charge adult ed $227,000 on legal fees. That's a 16.9% raise. Please direct them to honor the 30 articles and give us a living wage. Thank you for your time.
Our next public comment is Max Mankita. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Max Mankita. I'm a senior at El Cerrito High School. I'm currently taking away time to study for finals to speak about the important matter of censuring Leslie Reckler. Leslie Reckler has been a long-standing supporter for improving me and my peers' education. Even if these alleged actions did happen, this is a heavy-handed, unnecessary, and excessive response that is not the warranted answer, again, for these alleged actions. I have read the censure and the corresponding bylaws, and I can tell you that this issue is not a priority for me or for any student in West Contra Costa County that I know. We need to focus on important issues in our schools, like filling teacher and staff vacancies, keeping classrooms and bathrooms clean, increasing school safety, and securing materials so kids can learn. I hope that the school board listens to Leslie Reckler's constituents like me and votes down this misguided measure. By removing her from committees and appointments, you are only getting rid of our voice to solve the aforementioned issues. Listen to your voters and veto this measure. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Sarah Creeley. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Next public comment is Sharzad Fernandez. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, am I being heard?
We can hear you now.
Hi. Hello, my name is Sharzad Fernandez, and I am a parent of a special needs child with autism. My son's name is Caspian Fernandez, and he is in kindergarten at Hannah Ranch. It is difficult for me to believe that I'm still in this predicament here with the district. After not having services since the start of the school year, my son had a speech therapist for no more than before she left, and now services half of the time provided. I was not notified when this change happened. I was done.
I'm sorry, ma'am. We can't hear you. It's breaking up. Ma'am?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Hello?
Yes.
I was not notified this change happened. In fact, I was never notified of anything about my son's services being provided.
Our next public comment is Susan Parkinson. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Hi, I'm a parent in the district. I have children at Harding Elementary, Korematsu Middle School, and El Cerrito High School. And I'm coming tonight to express concern over the proposed cut of music faculty in the district. The spreadsheet that I saw proposed eliminating 10.4 full-time equivalent faculty in music. And I have a lot of concerns about this. I just want to emphasize the value that music education has played for my children specifically and children in general. It's not just a side gig for my kids. It's been a game changer socially and for their mental health. I particularly want to emphasize the importance of coherence between the elementary school programs, the middle school programs, and the high school programs. I've attended concerts at all three of these levels, and the communication and coordination between teachers at these different schools shows dramatically between the squeaky note concerts that I hear at the elementary school level to the highly polished award-winning bands that we have at El Cerrito High School. Please support maintaining these positions. The music programs are really one of the best things we have going at our schools. And frankly, although the band programs are great, it's really the bare minimum. We don't have choral music at our schools, at least the schools my children attend. We don't have orchestra programs. So this band program is small but wonderful and extremely valuable, and I want to support its continuation. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Alonzo Addison. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, this is Elaine Addison, and I am calling because I'm very baffled about the claims directed at our representative Leslie Reckler. I'm not quite sure if it's disenfranchising a fifth of our constituents, but last time I checked, this was a democratic country. Anyhow, I have worked and known Leslie Reckler for 5 to 8 years, and I have volunteered as a parent within the district in many different clubs and organizations. And my experience of her is the opposite of what I've been reading. I've only ever known her to be highly dedicated, extremely professional, and very compassionate, who seems to work tirelessly on behalf of all the students in the West Contra Costa Unified School District. And I've quietly seen and heard about her doing great things for students within our district whose parents feel they don't have a voice, that is kept very quiet. So I've seen her in very complex parent situations where, I don't know if you know this, but parents get very emotional when it concerns their parents, their child, and she has dealt with them with professionalism. And all I've ever known her to be is a stickler for the rules that every 48 forms have to be signed and dotted and legal according to the West Contra Costa School District. So I'm just utterly baffled and concerned about these statements that seem extremely petty, concerned with the problems at large that we have within our district. So I do hope that the board listens to a fifth of their constituents, and thank you to all of you for your service, and particularly for Leslie for her service to our district.
Vote against this. Our next public comment is Jeffrey Bean. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, good evening. I'm Jeffrey Bean. I teach 5th grade at Shannon Elementary. This is my 9th year at Shannon. I love my job. Today, most of my students were there, so it's a good day. I wanted to speak about the music situation. I want to tell you a little bit about how the music program works in elementary. We have a band director, Mr. Van Bukow, and Mr. Van Bukow comes to our school Wednesday and Thursday for the latter half of the day. He's assigned to 5 different elementary schools, which means that each day he's at probably 2 schools, morning at one school, afternoon at a different school. Sounds like he's a superhero. It's amazing. I don't know how he does it. Not every student gets to go to band. I have probably currently about maybe 7 or 8 students in my class who go to band. They are pulled out of class for about 35 minutes twice a week for band. And if that program were cut, it would be a shame. It's not enough. We need more. I wish more students had the opportunity. And 5 schools is really too many for one teacher to handle. But I've, over my time at Shannon, and I think Mr. Van Bukow has been there almost as long as I have, I've seen students who are, not every student shines in math or reading. And different students have different strong points. And I've seen students who didn't shine in math or reading, but for whom a band became their thing. And I went to a concert at Pennell Middle School where my students feed into in last June, and I saw some of my former students who were really shining. And I hope that the program remains intact and expands like it should based on Prop 28. Thanks for your time. Have a good night.
Our next public comment is Ellen Bayaliu. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for taking my call tonight. I'm calling as a parent in Leslie Reckler's district, and I am just sort of shocked and appalled that there's a censure resolution for our representative on the agenda tonight. I've only found her to be a completely responsive board member anytime myself or my husband has concerns or raises concerns about issues within our district, specifically the significant financial crisis that our district is in, and the board's seemingly unwillingness to sort of talk about structural deficits and what contributes to that. Leslie Reckler is an expert on the budget of our district and how money works in the district, and actually has been really helpful in explaining the labyrinthine policies in California and how California education gets funded for us as concerned parents. The district has so many greater issues at play right now. You've heard many parents and teachers tonight pleading for the fate of the future of arts in our district because of these significant deficits and the need to make dramatic cuts. I kind of just can't believe you're wasting the oxygen on this for a board member who has been, in my opinion, quite a professional and an important representative for myself and my family and my child. I urge you to vote no against this censure resolution. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Sharzad Fernandez. Please unmute yourself.
Just come back. Hi, hello again. My name is Sharzad Fernandez, and I'm a parent of a special needs child with autism. My son's name is Caspian Fernandez, and he is a kindergartner at Hannah Ranch. It is difficult for me to believe that I'm still in this predicament. After not having services since the start of school, my son had a speech therapist for no more than 2 sessions before she left, and now has temporary services, but half of the time provided. I was not notified when this change happened. In fact, I was never notified of anything about my son's services not being provided. What is being done about this? How are we prioritizing these kids? My kid. How is time going to be given back when the time can't even properly be provided at minimum? With his deficits and any further delay, it puts him in a predicament and widens the educational gap of where he should be based on your IEP, which is a legal document. Caspian not receiving speech therapy is extremely detrimental to his growth and development and ultimately his future. He deserves proper services. These kids deserve proper services. These families deserve the help, especially the ones who don't know how to advocate for their loved ones. I'm doing this for all of them and my son. Please do something.
And our last public comment is Steph Above. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, I am concerned. I'm listening to all these people talk about Leslie Rucker. What about the children, mainly the African-American children who are failing and are not getting the support or the education? It's wonderful to have music. I wish they all could have it. But right now we need some children to receive an education. They're not receiving it. They're being passed on. They can't read, can't write, can't do math. What is the district doing about that? Do we need to formulate our own school or oversight committee, or what do we need to do? Because the children are just failing. And it sounds like the children with special needs are as well. So what are we doing about that? I volunteer for the school district. I've seen it firsthand. I am an educator, and I just really feel like we need to do more to save our children and educate our children. I yield.
Thank you, everyone, for your public comment. Board, we are now moving to agenda review and adoption. If there are no objections, the agenda will be adopted.
Hello, I would like to pull the Mindful Life contract.
We're not on consent yet, sir. We are on agenda review and adoption.
Okay.
Do we have any objections to the agenda as posted? Without objection, the agenda is now adopted. We are now moving on to the recognition, B8, the recognition of our student board representatives. Dr. Hurst, this is your item.
President Smith Folds.
Yes,
Minutes.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Yes.
Sorry, that's my fault. I apologize. Never mind.
Okay. Superintendent Hurst, we are now on B8, recognizing the participation of our student board representatives. This is your item, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's my pleasure and honor to recognize our two student trustees, Tristan Callip and also Anaya Cyphersert. They have worked extremely hard, not just as student trustees, but also in the classroom, but also in their personal life. And I wanted to share with all of you just a little bit about what they are involved in, so you can see how hard they work. For Anaya Cyphersert, not only has she been a board student trustee, but she's also been part of the All-Student Congress as a student trustee, ASB Vice President, Asian Student Union Club Treasurer, Gaming Club Vice President, Technology Planning Committee for WCC USD, intern for Career Climber, All-Star Project Youth Development Member, UC Berkeley Pre-College Academy, and an intern for Standout Connect. And she's done all this and maintained a weighted GPA of 4.214. Hard worker. We do appreciate you and honor you. And we also want to share with about Tristan Callip. He's not only been a student trustee, but he's also been class president, been part of the All-Student Congress as a student trustee there. He's worked for In and Out as an associate. He has been part of the cross-country varsity athlete, Contra Costa College tutor, the Asian American Student Union member, a biology teacher assistant, Conservation and Community Service Committee, and a member of the Interact Club. And he's done this all maintaining a weighted GPA of 4.463. Let's give our student trustees a round of applause. And we'd just like to honor you for your service as student trustee and for your leadership. And we do have a plaque to present to both of you, and your plaque says, presented to student trustee Tristan Callip and student trustee Anaya Cyphersert, fall semester 2023, in recognition of your leadership and service to the students of West Contra Costa Unified School District on behalf of the Board of Education. Thank you so much for your service.
Board, we're going to take comments from the board first, then we're going to get a group picture with our student trustees. Student trustees, if you'll look at student trustees, look at Ms. Forrest and then let him hand you your plaque again. There you go. Hand the plaque. Come out a little bit. She can't see you. Come out a little bit. There we go. Now, Dr. Hurst, hand it to him again so we can get a good picture. Wonderful. There you go. Thank you very much. We're going to do comments from the board, and then student trustees, you'll be able to make a comment if you have one, and then we'll take a picture. Board, are there any comments? I think we'll start with trustee Reckler and just work ourselves around. Trustee Reckler, go ahead.
Thank you to both of you. Thank you so much for your comments and coming every week and reliably being here and representing the students of West Contra Costa Unified School District. You've done a tremendous job as ambassadors for students, and I know that you will leave here and have just absolutely terrific lives. Before you leave, let's please connect so that we can exchange some information, because I would be happy to reference you, just the ways that we keep connected and move each other forward. Finally, I do have to say that, those fries at In and Out, Not good, not good. So if you have any power over the fries and In-N-Out, please. Crispier, a little bit more well done. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Reckler. Let's go just right around. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you, President Smith Folds. Trustee Cypress Sarah, Trustee Caleb, thank you for your service. You have an incredible advocates and voice for students. This whole time you've been on the board, you've been so professional and so well prepared. I think that in the past, we have always had to support students in these meetings, and you both just come in with such expertise and understanding of what's going on. I didn't even know you could get a 4.4 GPA, which will tell you a little bit about mine, but that's pretty impressive. And 4.2, it's just as impressive. So I know you both have a bright future. And I hope that you both come back to this community once you're done with college or whatever else you're gonna do next. And you're welcome to run for one of our seats because I know already that you're gonna do a great job. And I will agree with my colleague and also say that animal style fries are great. So that you guys are doing great. And I hope to see you next time I come to In-N-Out, Trustee Caleb. But thank you both so much for your work. And I look forward to hearing what you do next.
Thank you so much, Clerk Gonzalez Hoy. Any comments from this side of the room? Okay, trustee Christian, then trustee Phillips.
Yes, I just want to say congratulations. Hard work pays off. You did a wonderful job. Both of you two did a wonderful job as trustees, and you were here, you participated, and thank you. And there's a lot that's ahead of you that you can get involved, in many other things. Just stay active, and hard work pays off. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Christian. Trustee Phillips.
So I want to say congratulations to both of you on successfully finishing your term. One of the things that I observed about you, and I was able to observe because I was literally sitting directly across from you the entire time. You spoke and you advocated, but you also listened. And I think what happens a lot of times, people, young, old, they get microphones and they don't listen, right? And when we don't do that, we're actually not as effective as we think that we are, right? And so I noticed both of you, and people will talk about speaking a lot, and you did that, and you did a good job speaking. But I just want to suggest that you keep listening, because it's a skill that everybody doesn't have, but I think you two do, and I think that it will serve you well in life. So congratulations again on successfully completing your term, and you guys did make a good contribution. So thank you.
Thank you very much, trustee Phillips. To the both of you, thank you so much for everything that you did. It was really enlightening to hear your point of view, to hear your questions, to watch you grow in your voice and to use your voice. Once you go off to college or career, keep that same smoke, keep that same energy, question everything, because you deserve to have answers to your questions. You deserve to use your voice. You speak for more than yourselves when you walk out into the world, and you represent young people, you represent your community, you represent very well. And that is something to be proud of. It's something to stand tall in. And we want to thank you as a collective board, and I want to thank you individually. It's hard because I remember you in volleyball, and you were such a young kid, but even then you had a spark behind you, and you knew what you wanted, and you were determined. Thank you for allowing WCCUSD to educate you both all of these years, and we look forward to seeing where you go, and we know it's going to go very far. So we really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Board, if we could go to the bottom of the dais and take a picture with our student trustees, it would be very much appreciated. Thank you, and I'm complete. Thank you so much, board, for that, for the picture. Trustees, again, thank you so much for all that you do. We are now moving on to B9, approval of the minutes, November 8th, November 13th, November 15th, December 6th, and December 13th. Yes, trustee Reckler.
First, I apologize for skipping item 8. And then on to the minutes of December 13th, 2024, 2023. Page 4, affirming calendar. On this meeting, the minutes reflect that the governance calendar was supposed to come back for approval, as well as dates for the superintendent evaluation and a board retreat. They are not on tonight's calendar. Agenda setting committee, may you explain why and when they will be re-agendized?
You want to talk about this? Okay, go ahead, Dr. Hurst.
So the board president and I decided to meet. We have actually a meeting tomorrow, talk about several topics. This is one of them. So we'll be coming back to the board to agendize those topics.
Okay, thank you. I have a comment at the end.
Board, without objection, if there are no objections to the approval of the minutes. Are there any objections to the approval of the minutes? You have, trustee Reckler.
I don't have an objection, but when the board unanimously votes to place something on the next agenda, my expectation is that it's going to be happen, or we will be notified. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any further or any objections to the acceptance of the minutes? Without objection, those minutes are accepted. We are now moving to B10. Resolution number 2324-44, recognizing Fred Kawamatsu Day, January 30th, 2024. Ms. Forrest, this is your item.
Yes. Whereas the West Contra Costa Unified School District has named one of its middle schools, Fred T. Kawamatsu Middle School, to salute his contributions to American society and humanity at large, and his legacy as a civil rights icon for a younger generation of Japanese Americans and Americans in general. And whereas Mr. Kawamatsu is one of the great modern civil rights heroes and a notable defender of the Constitution, his people, and the great American ideals to which we aspire but do not always attain. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the West Contra Costa Unified School District Board of Education salute the legacy of Fred Toyosaburo Kawamatsu and designate January 30th, 2024 as Fred Kawamatsu Day.
Thank you so very much. Board, can I get do we have questions? You don't have questions? Can I get a motion?
President Smith Folds, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2324-44, recognizing Fred Kawamatsu Day, January 30th, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there comments? Go ahead, trustee Reckler.
Yeah, I say this every year, but I think it's really important. When I grew up, we never learned about this. I have no recollection of it. And it wasn't until late in life, really around the time that the Castro School was renamed to Kawamatsu, that I really understood and knew what happened. And I just am horrified by that. And I'm very happy that our students today receive a much better rounded education in the growth and the happenings of the complex history of America. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Reckler. Any more comments? No to the vote. Trustee Cypress-Hurt? Your vote, ma'am.
I abstain my vote.
Thank you. Trustee Callip?
Callip, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Reckler?
Reckler, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Christian?
Yes.
Thank you. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm a yes. Thank you so much. Now we are on B11, resolution number 2324-45. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service, January the 15th, 2024. Ms. Forrest, this is your item.
Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day represents liberation from cruelty and injustice for many African Americans and other minority groups, and the notion of liberty from cruelty and injustice is a concept that resonates with all marginalized groups. And whereas on April 10th, 1970, California became the first state to pass legislation making Dr. King's birthday a school holiday. And whereas January 20th, 1986 marked the first federal observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education and the West Contra Costa Unified School District recognize Monday, January 15th, 2024 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service and encourage all schools to commemorate this occasion with appropriate instructional activities.
Thank you so much, Ms. Forrest. Any questions? Can we have a motion, please?
President Smith Folds, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2324-45, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service as January 15th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments? Any comments from the board? I have a comment. The Martin Luther King Jr. that we make palatable for certain communities is not always the Martin Luther King Jr. that we are taught as African-American children. He was a fierce advocate. He stepped out and he stepped in front and he shook the rafters. So the Martin Luther King Day or the Martin Luther King Jr. that is the I Have a Dream, he is that, but he is also the Martin Luther King that wrote amazing letters from the Birmingham jail. He is also the Martin Luther King Jr. that stood in the gap and told people exactly what he thought, when he thought it, and how he thought it for Black liberation, Black freedom, and African Americans moving to a level of equality that we still have not met. So when we teach about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., make sure that we teach it in totality. So not just the whitewash version of it that's palatable for people, but the version of who this man truly was and what he stood for and what we need to reach out for every single day. Yes, he said, I want people to be known by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. He also said to the mountaintop. He also said we will go together. He also said that we deserve to be treated better than we are treated in this country. So we need to see this man in his totality and not what's palatable for us and makes us happy. I'm complete. Trustee Christian?
Yes, I just wanted to echo the same words that you're saying. Martin Luther King made major contributions to this country. And so if you want to celebrate Martin Luther King, attend the Martin Luther King celebration in El Cerrito. They're going to have a march from, I believe, the BART station to El Cerrito High School. And everybody needs to come out. And if you really, truly, believe in what Martin Luther King put forth. So come on out and be a part of this event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trustee Christian. We are now moving to item C on the agenda, consent items. If you have something that you want pulled, please let that be known. Trustee Reckler?
I would like to pull for discussion C2, award of contract for Cameron School Tenant Improvements Project. C9, Parent Square Annual Renewal. C12, approval of fundraising activities. And that's it.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips?
I would like to pull the Mindful Life contract.
Just that contract? So we are going to vote on the consent items minus consent item number 2, 9, 12, and the Mindful Life contract. Can I get a motion?
President Smith Folds, I'll move that we approve all other items on consent.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Reckler will second.
Thank you. To the vote. Trustee Cypher,
Cypress, yes.
trustee Calip,
Caleb, yes.
trustee Reckler,
Reckler, yes.
trustee Phillips,
Yes.
trustee Christian.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you very much, board. We are now moving to the superintendent's communication. Dr. Hurst, this is your item.
Thank you, ma'am. Can we put up the report, please? Tonight's report will have two major portions. I'll be giving some updates and announcements. But then also I'll be turning it over to our Chief Academic Officer, Ms. Neely Johnson, and she's going to give a presentation on instructional materials overview, textbook sufficiency, and William monitoring. The next slide, please. And we know Mr. Gosney came up to recognize Mr. Younger, but we also wanted to share a memoriam. The district would like to take time to recognize the contributions and members of our community who have passed away. We regret to inform you that Mr. Anton Younger has passed away. Mr. Younger was a co-founder and executive director of the California Association of Bond Oversight Committees. Ms. Younger served in the district CBOC since 2004. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Next slide. We wanted to highlight the community forums that we have coming up. As you know, we have been meeting on a regular basis with the labor partners and also our president, Smith Folds, and Clerk Gonzalez Hoy, myself, and staff on a regular basis to really address the fiscal solvency of our district. We're going to continue those conversations and not just have these conversations with labor, but we're going to invite community from wherever you are to come out to these conversations. We have one that's going to be January the 18th, and that's going to be at Kennedy High School. It's going to be in the library, and it'll be from 6 to 8 p.m., and we invite all to come. We're also going to have the same forum, January 22nd, 6 to 8 p.m. This one will be Canoa Valley High School in their library, again, 6 to 8 p.m. And if you can't make it to either one of those, we will also have a Zoom option. That Zoom option will be January the 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. And again, community, staff, students, we invite all of you to come out to participate in this forum, but also especially to provide us your input and your feedback. Next slide. Also, I've had the opportunity to speak to our board president and our clerk, and we really wanted to announce the return of standing reports. All those committees are coming back. They'll be coming back at our next board meeting on the 24th of January. The board and superintendent will be reinstating the opportunities for our parent advisory committees or our PACs, our labor partners and committees to come before the board to give reports. They'll be on every other agenda this month. They will have their opportunity on January the 24th. And then again, the first meeting in February. So they are all coming back, those standing committee reports. There'll be 5 minutes each when they do come. If we can click on that link, just so we can see those groups. So I'll just read them off. It may be tiny. We have the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, CBOC. We have the Community Advisory Committee for Special Education, the CAC. Our District Local Control Accountability Committee, DLCAP. Our African American Student Advisory Team, ASAT. Multilingual District Advisory Committee, MDAC. Our All Student Congress and Student Trustee Mentor. Our Budget Committee, Teamsters. United Teachers of Richmond, UTR. WCCAA, SSA, ASTU, Labor Partner, and DLI PAC. This is what we have thus far. I think this is still in draft format, and we may be adding a few more additions. Yes. So we just wanted to announce to everyone that these committees will be coming back. And again, the first report out will be next board meeting, January the 24th, 5 minutes each. We did have our administrative assistant, Rosa Conejo, send out an email to all of you, just inviting you to come out. And she also sent out a timeline for all of you as well to sign up for 1 p.m. on that Thursday before we post. So again, welcome back to those standing committees. Next slide. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Academic Officer, Ms. Sonia Neely Johnson, for a presentation.
Thank you and good evening and Happy New Year, everyone. I am here to do an overview of the textbook sufficiency and Williams monitoring. There was a request for information, and so we wanted to include this to just give an overview to connect. So this is a response to the board question about how the new legislation, AB 1078, is related to Williams, and also an opportunity to just do a quick overview of the textbook sufficiency. So on this slide, what you will see is all the 5 related processes on how we ensure that all students have all needed materials. Next slide. So Ed Code 60119 says the school board is required to pass a resolution by the 8th week of school, attesting that students have sufficient materials. West Contra Costa does go a step further and asks that all teachers submit a sufficiency affidavit. We improve our systems every year, and this year we are working on how student technology requests can be turned around in 48 hours when there are so many requests in August and September. Some teachers are understandably uncomfortable with the language, and I'm saying quotes, every enrolled student in my class has access to an internet-enabled device and internet service at home. Because they are able to ask but not necessarily verify, some may feel uncomfortable saying everyone has internet access at home. Next slide. I'm sorry. So State Bill 48 in 2011 states that districts must include fair, accurate, inclusive, and respectful reference by people with disabilities and the LGBTQ+ community in social studies curriculum. This adds those groups to the existing groups named in Ed Code section 51204.5, which can be read on this slide. And if you see the bold letters, those are the areas that were added. Next slide. So in reference to Assembly Bill 1078, in order to fight against book bans in California, the Assembly passed AB 1078, which would require a supermajority vote from school boards to ban books in schools. So AB 1078 was signed in September 2023, and if a district does not provide approved instructional materials, the bill allows the state superintendent to do the following: order a remedy such as the purchasing of library books or instructional materials, fine a district that deliberately avoids updating a school textbook to avoid complying with the FAIR Act, or order a new text/instructional material and charge the district that cost. Next, Williams Monitoring. Williams is the response to a lawsuit where the California Department of Education selects specific schools to visit and verify that textbook deficiencies each fall. The schools that were visited this past fall will be visited again next year to reflect the achievement information on the 2024 dashboard. These are 3 ways that schools are selected for Williams review. Next slide. So one of the things that I do want to say that happened this year, I had said earlier that we want to make sure that this happens by week 8. And I want to say that this is new to my department. This was held by our state and federal director, Lynn Potter, who actually retired 2 weeks before this was due. And so with the scramble, we were able to get a lot of things done, but our goal this year is to make sure that we meet that requirement. I also want to honor our hardworking staff, specifically Francie Kuniak and others throughout the year that ensure that our students have all of the instructional materials like textbooks that they need. And this is I want to say that one of the things that we do really try to do is work collaboratively and respond within a sufficient time. And when I say a sufficient time, requests many times are made and we try to get back to them within the week. The last slides I am not going to actually go through, but they are for reference. We do have technical assistance that we receive from the county as a different, and this is the differentiated assistance that we receive based on where we are on the dashboard. And I can go into this at another time, but I just wanted to add this for reference. And that concludes my portion of the superintendent's report. Thank you for listening.
And that concludes the superintendent's report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, board. Remember, we ask questions and not comments. Do we have any questions from the board? Trustee Reckler?
On the thank you. And on the reinstatement of committees and community groups, it was going very quickly. Was PTA on that list?
They were not on the list, but I think we need to add them to the list.
Okay, and if you need an email for them, I can provide that.
Thank you.
And okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Trustee Phillips?
Is there a certain number of questions?
We're going to do 3 questions and a 1.5 comments. Not on this particular one, but 3 questions for tonight and then a 1.5 comments for tonight. So you have 3 questions. And while you're in your pause, if you need more than 3 questions, let me know. I can add more than 3 questions, but right now we're at 3 questions. But if you need more, let me know.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Hurst, you referred to the contract review that you did with board leadership and labor, and these questions are about contracts. 3 contracts, so 3 questions. Back in June, the board approved the contract, the final contract for the interim associate superintendent for ed services. Was that contract actually ever signed by all the parties?
I would have to ask Dr. Johnson, was that contract ever signed?
Well, your name, your signature line is on there, so you would have signed it if it
Yes, I'm referring to the other party.
Okay,
The other party has not signed the contract.
okay. Same date, Business Services Associate Superintendent was approved, final contract for that. Was that contract signed by all the parties?
I would have to ask for the other party, but the other party has signed that contract.
Hold on one second. This is making me a little nervous because it's not directly on the agenda. I understand that you're putting it under the umbrella of contracts that you had in your superintendent's report. Is that correct, Trustee Phillips?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
asking about contracts.
Dr. Hurst, in your superintendent's report, you had mentioned, did you have mention of contracts? I don't know if I saw it or not.
But we didn't mention these contracts that you're bringing up, sir, not my superintendent report.
Trustee Phillips, what did he mention that you're using to predicate this line of questioning?
In his superintendent report, he referred to the work that he and board leadership had been doing
With contracts?
with contracts.
Those are budget contracts. Those contracts are different than the contracts that you're speaking of now. The contracts that we looked at were in the 4,000s and the 5,000s. That's what the budget subcommittee did. We did not look at contracts of employees. We looked at contracts that fell in the 4,000 and the 5,000s. CBO Moses, is that an accurate representation of what the budget subcommittee did? Yes, it is. Okay, so with that being said, the line of questioning that you're going to asking about particular contracts with the employees of the district, that's not agendized. So I would ask you to refrain from asking that last question if it's in that line of questioning. Thank you.
I will refrain from asking the last question. I think he responded to Ed Services already. Right,
He did.
okay. So I will ask the other two later.
You can ask other questions. You can ask two more other questions, or do you have other questions that are not in this line?
Yes, so
Okay.
are all of the board committees going to be reinstated too? Or is it just parent committees?
The board president and I have not had that particular conversation. We only talked about those committees right now.
And then Trustee Phillips, what we're gonna do on the 24th, you're gonna get an email from me as board president, and we're gonna talk about those appointments that we do every year. And inside of that, those appointments, we will have, once I talk with the superintendent, we'll have a list of those committees, if any come back. Does that make sense? Okay, that will happen. You will get that between tomorrow morning and Friday. You'll get an email. And let me let Trustee Phillips finish, and then I see you, Trustee Christian. Is that satisfactory, Trustee Phillips?
Yes.
Okay,
And those are my questions.
thank you so much. Trustee Christian.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just want to thank you for bringing back the committees. It's very, very needed. When would, quick question, Dr. Hurd, will the safety committee, would that be starting?
I think that's the same question that Trustee Phillips was asking about those committees that existed prior to me coming here. Again, that's a conversation that the president has not brought up yet. It's not on the agenda for tomorrow, but she can bring up any question that she wants to or any topic. So as of right now, that has not been discussed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you, President Smith-Phillips. I think that there's some confusion. Dr. Hurst, are we bringing these committees back that would you mention, or are we just providing space on the agenda for them to report out? And were they already working?
Thank you for the clarification. We're providing space on the agenda for them to report out.
So they're already meeting and they're already doing work.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No other questions? Okay, we'll move on. Dr. Hurst, thank you for your report. Staff, thank you for your report. We are now moving on to our action items. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of a resolution regarding the censure of Leslie Reckler, trustee Area 5. First, I would like to take a moment to explain what a censure resolution is. Censure is a formal action by a majority of the governing body to declare its disapproval or condemnation of particular conduct of one of its members. There is no express authorization in law for a censure. Rather, it exists by custom and practice. No formal penalty or advanced consequences results from a censure other than that the member's conduct and the board's disapproval of it is made a matter of public record. The customary procedure is for the board to review information presented in support of the censure by the board member in the form of a resolution. In this case, the censure resolution is based on the conduct by trustee Reckler as found by an investigation conducted by Oppenheimer Investigations Group, LLP. Action to censure as a board member must be initiated by motion and second, discussed and voted upon by the entire board membership, including the member who is subject of the censure resolution. The board may act to adopt the resolution as written, amend the resolution, decline to adopt the resolution, or defer the matter for a subsequent meeting. The draft resolution was included as part of the board's packet of information in preparation for today's meeting or tonight's meeting and was sent in advance to trustee Reckler. Trustee Reckler was advised that she would have an opportunity to respond to the resolution and that she may have a representative speak for her if she wishes. Next, the board will hear comments by the public in regard to the censure resolution. We will have, excuse me. We said 1 minute? Comments from the public? Didn't say usually 3 minutes. Did we say 1 minute? Thank you. Sorry, thank you. Next, the board will hear comments by the public in regard to the censure resolution. You will have 1 minute to make a statement before the board considers the resolution. Do we have public comment?
Yes, we do. Our first public comment is Chris.
Excuse me, 1 second. Ms. Hennessis, I need to read the resolution.
Okay.
Whereas the West Contra Costa Unified School District Board of Education is committed to the effective leadership and operation of West Contra Costa Unified School District, and whereas the West Contra Costa Unified School District Board of Education has established and adopted governance standards for the board as set forth in Board Bylaw 9005, including the requirement that board members shall operate openly and with trust and integrity. And whereas the West Contra Costa Unified School District Board of Education has established and adopted Board Bylaw 9270, which states that the governing board desires to maintain the highest ethical standards, that no board member shall participate in the making of a decision for the district that may affect his or her financial, family, or other personal interests, and that a board member shall not engage in any employment or activity or hold any office which is inconsistent with, incompatible with, or immutable to the board member's duties to the district. And whereas on or about August the 3rd, 2022, board member Leslie Reckler engaged in the following conduct. After the Youth Development Program Coordinator submitted an application to the board for district high schools to be able to use SNAP-RISE to raise funds for their athletic programs, and the coordinator's application was placed on consent items, the consent items portion of the board's meetings agenda, board member Reckler pulled the application from the consent items list, and the item was ultimately not moved forward for a vote. At the time, board member Reckler pulled the item off the consent calendar. She held the role of treasurer with the Student Activities Fund, SAF, pulling the item off the consent calendar where it ultimately was not moved forward for a vote constituted bias in favor of the SAF. Because it prevented athletic programs from assessing an alternative means of funding, which would have reduced the SAF's influence. Board member Reckler's conduct in this regard violated the principles and expectations set forth in the board by bylaw 9005. to operate openly with trust and integrity in the board bylaw 9270 against board members participating in district decisions that may affect their personal interests. And whereas on or about January the 11th, 2023, Board Member Reckler engaged in the following conduct. When the coordinator's application for the use of SnapRise again appeared on the consent items portion of the board's agenda, she again pulled it from the list. At this time, she held the role as member at large with the SAF. This conduct violated the principles and expectations set forth in Board Bylaw 9005 to operate openly with trust and integrity, and in Board Bylaw 9270 against board members participating in district decision that may affect their personal interests. And whereas between November 20th and October 2020, whereas between November 2020 and October 2022, Board Member Reckler engaged in the following conduct. She was aware of several violations by Coach Scott Bishop, who is no longer an employee of the district, of the rules prohibiting him from handling sponsored group committee SGC funds, and in an instance in which he improperly organized a fundraiser volleyball tournament for Korematsu Middle School. Despite her awareness of Bishop's actions, Board Member Reckler did not notify Superintendent Kenneth Hurst, El Cerrito High School Principal Patricia Crespo, or the district's Human Resource Department. This conduct violated the principles and the expectations set forth by Board Bylaw 9005 to operate openly with trust and integrity, and in Board Bylaw 9270, holding board members to the highest ethical standards. And whereas on or about October 26, 2022 and October 31st, 2022, Board Member Reckler engaged in the following conduct. After El Cerrito High School administration requested a financial audit from the SAF on the past 3 years of transactions, including records of all expenditures, cash out payments to coaches, and income made by the girls volleyball SGC, Board Member Reckler provided only 2 summary audits, which were not typical financial audits, in which described in narrative and conciliatory, say the word, that's gonna be that's a hard one to say. Yeah, it's hard, huh? Conclusatory fashion, some of Bishop's violations, these summary audits reports were not responsive in the administration's request because they did not analyze the financial transaction of SAF. Board Member Reckler acknowledged that she did not give the administration the information in the format requested. Board Member Reckler prepared the summary audit reports on behalf of the SAF while holding the position of SAF member at large at a time when SAF had an interest in limiting the financial information it provided to the district. Board Member Reckler's conduct violated the principles and expectations set forth in Board Bylaw 9005 to operate openly with trust and integrity, and in Board Bylaw 9270 against board members holding positions inconsistent with, incompatible with, or inimical to the duties to the district. And whereas on or about June 20th, 2023, Board Member Reckler engaged in the following conduct. After resigning from the position of treasurer on the SAF board, Board Member Reckler accessed documents on the SAF Google Drive. Board Member Reckler did this despite emphasizing in her resignation letter that she no longer had access to the SAF files, and failing to acknowledge in her letter that she had access or intended to access the Google Drive. Board Member Reckler accessed the Google Drive despite having no legitimate business reason to do so, and despite the SAF's intent to remove her access to the Google Drive pursuant to her resignation. Board Member Reckler's conduct violated the principles and the expectations set forth in Board Bylaw 9005 to operate openly with trust and integrity, and in Board Bylaw 9270, holding the board members to the highest ethical standard. And whereas the West Contra Costa Unified School District Board of Education has determined to refer the matter of Board Member Leslie Reckler conducts referenced above to the Fair Political Practice Commission and the Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office, and whereas the deficiencies in the conduct cited above represent a failure of the public trust, setting the reputation of West Contra Costa Unified School District in a negative light. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the West Contra Costa Unified School District Board of Education does hereby censure Board Member Leslie Reckler for the deficiencies in conduct cited above in violation of the bylaws, principles, and the expectations of board. And be it further resolved that the West Contra Costa Unified School District appointments for the excuse me. And be it further resolved that the West Contra Costa Unified School District Board of Education hereby removes Board Member Leslie Reckler from all committees and appointments for the 2023-2024 school year. And be it further resolved that the West Contra Costa Unified School District Board of Education does hereby demand that Board Member Reckler henceforth endorse, adopt, and abide by the board's adopted policies establishing its governance standards, conflict of interest policy, and all other bylaws and policies of the board. We are now going to move to any public comment. Is there any public comment?
Yes, our first public comment is Christy Lamb Julian.
And can we put a 1-minute timer on? Thank you very much.
Just kidding. Thank you. Hi, my name is Christy Lamb Julian. I am a Guiding Coalition member, CAC member, and most importantly, mother of a young student with exceptional needs, fully invested in the longevity of WCCUSD. My personal interaction with Trustee Reckler began in 2020 and lasted until 2023 while my son was enrolled at Shannon Elementary. My family and I have been personally impacted by refusing to go along with her suggestions, which then resulted to discrimination and intimidation for bringing my concerns of questionable, unethical behavior forward. The unethical financial practices, conflicts of interest, lobbying, and biased decisions made by Trustee Reckler during my interactions with her are further substantiated with this resolution. Her motives have been and will continue to be self-serving and beneficial to herself and those in her sphere of influence, not to the students, families, and schools she has been entrusted to serve. Trustee Reckler's continual gross negligence as well as systematic and ongoing disregard for
Please
the
conclude
basic.
your comment.
It's a minute comment on these. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Our next public comment is AC. Please unmute yourself.
I have a few questions for you. So first off, what was the cost of this witch hunt that the board has put forward on one of your members? And what would be the cost if you actually followed the earlier comment and investigated each of the rest of your cells for all of your errors and omissions? 2, do you really think that doing this is going to make the public want to support you and more public want to serve on the board? So, I think you need to think about that. And then the third point, which is the most important, how are you going to handle the disenfranchisement of 1/5 of the school district by removing our vote for this school year? You have no power to do that, and you're facing a lawsuit from your constituents. So I think all of you need to be very careful before you move forward.
Next public comment is Max Mankita. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Max Mankita. I'm speaking again after I've already given public comment in support of Leslie Reckler, and I'd like to reiterate, as a constituent, I've heard the alleged, infractions of the code in the censure, and I do not find these concerning. Moving an item off a consent agenda means we're going to discuss it further. We're going to look into it further. That is not necessarily acting in your own interest. But what I do see is the school district not necessarily acting in mine and other students' interests when we continue to prioritize our time speaking on unimportant issues like this, when I go into the bathrooms worrying if there's going to be soap. When I just until last week learned that finally I'm going to have a teacher for my class next semester. There are much, much more important issues, and by removing one of the advocates for my school, I'll continue to see that as a voter, you guys are not representing my interests. You're not dealing with the issues that are important to me, and instead you are disenfranchising me, my peers, and our district as a whole. Thank you, and please support Leslie Reckler.
Next public comment is Alon Harrison. Please unmute yourself.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to know, we've been, the ASAT and, our Black Task Force, Educational Task Force have been meeting with board members regarding our school. So I wanted to know, is this what this resolution will it make Leslie not able to meet with us? And then also I want to know, how does it, affect the decision of the board when you guys are making decisions about this resolution? How does that affect her making decisions, like voting and doing things of that nature? I have questions more than I have comments on that. Just like, how does this resolution affect our students, our parents, and what does that look like? I'm complete.
And our last public comment is Rebecca Milliken. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hi, yes, I'm a parent in the district and I spoke earlier. I want to reiterate, after hearing the resolution again, this seems a tremendous waste of the board's time and our district's resources. We heard so many folks calling in tonight with pressing issues. Again, the concern about disenfranchising 1/5 of the district's constituents by this censure. I can speak to Leslie's character, having, seen her serve this community for over a decade. There is no personal gain. I also am aware, as a parent who was involved with SAF, that let's just say that there was no personal gain and Leslie stepped in to help them when they pushed out, not Leslie, a different treasurer. So, I'm really just so befuddled here as to why that we're even hearing this tonight. So again, please put your efforts in UB and take this resolution off.
If there are no further public comments on this matter, I will entertain a motion on the proposed resolution. Or do I have a motion? Clerk Gonzalez Hoy is recognized.
Thank you, President Smith Folds. I move that we approve the resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'll second that. Clerk Smith Folds, President Jamila Smith Folds, second. In moderating discussion on the resolution, I'm going to allow each member of the board to make an initial statement if he or she wishes. Then Trustee Reckler and or her representative will be granted the floor to respond to the resolution. Following Trustee Reckler's response, the debate will be open among the members of the board. Once again, in moderating the discussion for the resolution, I'm going to allow each board member to make an initial statement if he or she wishes. Then Trustee Reckler and or her representative will be granted the floor to respond to the resolution. Following Trustee Reckler's response, then debate will open up among the members of the board. Do we have any board members that would like to make an initial statement? Trustee Phillips. Trustee Phillips, we're going to put up 2 minutes on the clock for you to make your initial statement. Excuse me.
President Smith Folds, I think you said 3 minutes.
3 minutes. I'm so sorry about that. Trustee Phillips, 3 minutes.
I actually move to table this resolution indefinitely.
Is there a second?
Reckler will second.
Point of order, President
yes.
Smith Folds. My understanding is that Trustee Reckler has to excuse herself from voting on this item. Now I just heard her say not true, but
Point of order, that is not correct. Please check with legal counsel.
we did check with legal counsel.
All right, everybody hold up. Take a breath. Everybody take a breath. Just a second. We need to figure out if Trustee Reckler is able to vote on this particular part of the proceedings tonight. So just give me 1 second. Trustee Phillips, hold on 1 second. What we're gonna do is we're gonna ask. So we need a 5-minute break so we can find out that answer and then we'll be back. She's on? Great. Hold on 1 second. I see you, sir. Hold on 1 second. Ms. Mayola.
Yes, good evening, board.
Hold
So-
on one second, ma'am. Let me make sure you understand everything that's happening real quick. I know you've probably been watching, but I'm gonna get to the question. The
Okay.
question at hand. We had a motion by Clerk Gonzalez Hoy. I second the motion for the resolution. Then we asked for comments or opening statements, and then trustee Phillips said he wants to table it completely. He motioned to table it completely. It was seconded by trustee Reckler. The question now comes at hand, does trustee Reckler have the ability to vote on this part?
She
Is that accurate? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, she does have the ability to vote both on this motion, which is the motion table, as well as the resolution itself. So as the point of order, what would need to happen is that there needs to be a vote on the motion to table, because there's been a second on that prior to discussion. If that carries, then the resolution is tabled, and then the board can move on to the next agenda item. If that motion does not carry, then you go back to the board comments that you were calling for initially, and then giving trustee Reckler the ability to respond to the resolution itself, and then taking the vote on the resolution.
Perfect. Thank you for your advice. Hold on one second. We have heard that what happens now is we're gonna take a vote on the last motion we heard, which is to table this resolution indefinitely. And that has been seconded by trustee Reckler. We are now gonna take a vote if we should table this resolution indefinitely. We are starting with our student trustees, and we will go around like we did before. Trustee Cypher.
I abstain.
Thank you. Trustee Caleb.
I abstain.
Thank you. Trustee Reckler.
Reckler, yes, motion to table indefinitely.
Trustee Phillips.
Yes.
Trustee Christian.
Abstain.
Trustee Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
No.
And I'm a no.
So then the vote does not carry to table. So then you go back to revert to the board member comments, and then trustee Reckler's ability to respond to the resolution, and then a vote on the motion to approve the resolution, which has already been moved and seconded.
Perfect. Trustee Christian, do you have a point of order?
Yeah, point of order.
What is your point?
Can I bring another motion to table for now and that we come back? Is that possible, or?
You have the ability to bring a motion, any motion that you would like. So the motion that I hear you say is that you would like to table this for now and then come back. Do you have a timeline when you want it to come back? When would you like it to come back?
It could be in the next board meeting or one after that.
So the February the 7th board meeting, is that what you're saying? That's the one after. We have this one, we have January 24th, and then we have February the 7th.
Yeah, February the 7th.
Is there a?
Point of order?
Yes.
Trustee Christian co-authored this resolution, so I'm not sure if you brought forward this resolution with me as the committee, so are you asking that we table it to the next meeting now? Although, remember, we have tons of agenda items at the next meeting.
If we can bring it back on the 7th.
So there's a motion on the floor. Trustee Reckler, just give me 1 second so I can see if I have a second for that motion, or if it dies, we're without a second. The motion on the floor is to have this resolution tabled until the February the 7th meeting. Is there a second? Motion dies without a second. Now we go back to the original motion that we had. And trustee Reckler, do you have a point of order, or no? Okay,
I didn't, the motion died, so that's fine.
thank you. We are now going back to the original motion, and the original motion was motioned by Clerk Gonzalez Hoy, seconded by President Smith Folds. And in moderating the discussion on the resolution that has been properly motioned and second, I'm going to allow each member of the board to make an initial statement if he or she wishes for 3 minutes. Then trustee Reckler and/or her representative will be granted the floor to respond to the resolution. Following trustee Reckler's response, then debate will be opened up among the members of the board. Is there a board member that would like to have 3 minutes for their initial statement? I see trustee Phillips. Do you have a point of order or would you like your 3 minutes?
I have a question.
So you have a point of order or we have a question. What's your question? sir?
At what point are we going to be allowed to ask questions?
Questions were handled. We had an extensive conversation in closed session where you were there. We had an extensive conversation in closed session about this very issue. That's why it got brought to the public now, because we had a vote in closed session after a lengthy discussion about the resolution and about the censure.
But you're implying that there was a discussion about questions. I'm just asking, there's a lot going on here. She's going to make a statement. When are we going to be able to ask questions for our clarity and for the public's clarity? Openly in this space.
Once again, can we bring up Ms. Mayola again?
I'm here, I'm present.
Okay, Ms. Mayola, am I correct in saying that when we had our closed session conversations and discussion and questions, that was the time for that to happen? Is that correct or is it not correct?
It's, I wouldn't say it's either correct or incorrect. I would say that closed session discussions remain closed session, obviously, and that we don't want to summarize those for open session because obviously that waives the confidentiality that applies to closed session. So I'm not commenting on specifically what happened during closed session discussion. For this particular item, I think board members can ask questions. I'm not sure who they would ask questions of, but they may be asking questions of trustee Reckler, and she has the ability to respond if she wishes to do so. But as the board agenda item indicates, there's no recommendation by staff. So it's not as if any other person is giving a presentation on this other than the resolution that's been presented by the board subcommittee on ethics for the board's consideration tonight. So I think to answer trustee Phillips' question, during the 3 minutes, board members can either make statements or they can ask questions. But again, I think those questions, if any, should be directed to trustee Reckler because there's no other person that's presenting information on this item other than what's contained in the resolution.
So what I heard you say, Ms. Mayola, is that in the 3 minutes, if board members want to use those 3 minutes to comment, ask questions, that's their prerogative, but that's the time to do so. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, I think that question has been answered. Board, do we understand? Trustee Phillips, do you have a point of order?
I do.
What's your point?
She is not the chair of the meeting.
Great, I am.
You are.
What we're
And
gonna
so
do,
so can I make my?
you may,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Thank you. So what we do on all our items is board members are able to ask questions and then they have comment time. I am asking, will you please follow the same format that you have followed for everything else and that you will follow for everything else? Because I would like to be able to ask questions and then comment.
Thank you so much, President, or thank you so much, Trustee Phillips. As president of the board, you are absolutely right that I have that discretion, prerogative, and pleasure of the leading and facilitating this meeting. On advice of counsel that we just heard, what we are going to do is you have 3 minutes. Inside those 3 minutes, you may use them to your pleasure. You may ask questions or you may make comments. Your questions as on advice of counsel should be probably directed to trustee Reckler because she's the only one that is going to respond back and during her time. Ms. Mayola, do I have that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. We are now, once again, in moderating the discussion on the resolution. I'm going to allow each member of the board to make an initial statement or put their questions in if he or she wishes. Then trustee Reckler or her representative will be granted the floor to respond to the resolution. Following trustee Reckler's response, then debate will be opened among the members of the board. Is there a board member who would like to have their 3 minutes to make an initial comment or initial statement? Trustee Phillips.
So just so I understand, I can ask questions now, and then when the discussion starts, I can talk. That's the debate part, right?
Ms. Mayola, the question on the floor that Trustee Phillips is asking is he can ask questions now during his 3 minutes, or he can make a comment during his 3 minutes. And as I just read, following Trustee Reckler's response, then debate will be opened up among the members of the board. Do we need a working definition of the word debate? Board, do we need a working definition of the word debate? Ms. Mayola, give us a working definition of debate.
This board is I think used to or comfortable with debating. You have debated on many items. So I think that your summary, President Smith Folds, is 100% accurate.
Thank you. President Gonzalez? Everybody's president today. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy, do you have a point of order?
Yes, I was wondering if you were gonna put a time limit on debate comments, because that would probably make it easier on us.
Yes. Let's put a time limit of 2 minutes. Let's put a time limit of 2 minutes on the comments. All right. Trustee Phillips, do you have a point of order?
No, I'm gonna ask
You're-
questions when you let
You're
me go.
ready. Okay.
Yeah.
May we put 3 minutes up?
Ms. Rosa, stop trying to knock my questions down.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was 3. 3 for this part, 3 for this initial part. And then at the debate, we're gonna do 2. That's okay. We're all about clarifying. Do you have, Trustee Phillips, do you have a point of order?
I do. It's a question. Considering the gravity of what we're talking about, can we maybe have more than 3 minutes? This is extremely serious. So I get it. We don't want to be here until tomorrow. But for what we're talking about, maybe it's a little, maybe it's not the best thing to be like, you can only talk for 2 minutes and 3 minutes here, you know?
Thank you so much for highlighting the seriousness of this issue. I believe that all issues that we take from the dais are serious issues. I would like to stay within the time frame that is presented. I know for a fact that this board can get a lot in 3 minutes, 2 minutes, a minute and a half. We just need to monitor our pregnant pauses, and then we can get everything in that we would like to say. So we are going to start with 3 minutes. Trustee Phillips, did you want to have your 3 minutes?
Don't
Yes,
ask questions.
yes. All right, 3 minutes are on the clock. Trustee Phillips, you may go ahead.
My first question is for the superintendent. Dr. Hurst, in the history of the West Contra Costa Unified School District, has a trustee ever been censured?
Not to my knowledge, certainly not since I've been here. No.
Prior to you coming here, are you aware of any trustee ever being censured?
No, sir, I have no context on that, so the answer will be no.
Did the board already refer Trustee Reckler to the FPPC? I'm sorry, did the board already vote to refer Trustee Reckler to the FPPC? This is for you again, sir.
Yes, sir.
Did the board already, who else did the board vote to refer Trustee Reckler to?
To the DA's office as well.
So, to your knowledge, no trustee has ever been censured in the history of this school district, correct?
To my knowledge, but again, my context is only limited to my 2.5 years.
Did you ask if there's ever been a censure of any other trustee?
I did not.
And you're saying that the board has already voted to refer Trustee Reckler to the DA and to the FPPC?
Yes, sir.
can you ask your staff if, to their knowledge, any trustee has ever been censured in the history of the school district?
Yes, I can go down one by one. I'll start with CBO Moses.
I don't have a lot of time. Just ask them to raise their hand. And if any of them raise their hand,
Can
ask
you
them.
raise your hand if in the history of, to your knowledge, has any board member in West Contra Costa Unified School District ever been censured? If yes, if you can remember that, raise your hand, please. So the answer is no.
And which board members voted to refer trustee Reckler to the DA? That's public information.
Hold on
But
one,
can
hold on
Elisa,
one
we're
second.
holding,
Can
can
you,
we stop
can
the
you
time?
pause her time, the
And can you
time for a
put
minute?
like 10 seconds back on it too, please?
Ms. Mayola.
Yes.
There you are. Ms. Mayola, the question that trustee Phillips just asked about the vote that was taken in closed session, was that brought to open session?
Yes, there was a report out about the vote, which is required, of course, whenever a vote is taken in closed session. And
Thank
so,
you. That information can be answered by our superintendent now.
correct.
Thank you so much. Ms. Rosa, if you could please restart the time. Trustee Phillips, your time is restarted. Dr. Hurst, if you would be the one to like to answer that question, go ahead, please.
Yes, the vote for Mr. Phillips was no. The vote for trustee Christian was yes. The vote for President Smith Folds was yes. The vote for Clerk Gonzalez Hoard was yes.
And that was the vote to refer her to the DA and the FPPC.
That was my report out. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other board members that would like to make an initial statement? Clerk Gonzalez Hoy, go ahead, please.
Thank you, President Smith Folds. It is unfortunate that we must take this action tonight, but just like we hold our staff accountable for what they do, we must take the same accountability as board members for our own work. No one is above the norms and policies that we have set as a district, including our board. We were elected by our communities to ensure we are not just holding our staff accountable, but each other for wrongdoings. This censure resolution is being brought forward because trustee Reckler was found through a third-party investigator to have taken actions that were unethical, violated our policies, and that are wrong as a trustee of this board and this district. In my opinion, after reading through the investigation and the response for trustee Reckler on the allegations and claims, I don't think tonight should be a debate about the legitimacy of the charges, but I hope tonight is about reflection for all of us on and about how we'll behave and follow our policies in the future. I hope that we can learn from this experience as a board and that trustee Reckler has learned from it as well and has remorse for her actions on this matter so that they are not repeated. If we know of people doing things they should not be doing, we must report it, especially as board members. If we think there might be a conflict of interest situation, we must ask to confirm, especially as board members. If we do something wrong, we must work with district and board leadership to resolve it. We are examples for this district, and we must behave and lead as such. This was a report of 85 pages. Not everything is on the resolution. And unfortunately, every claim was sustained. So this is not a question about whether or not it's true. I hope we can move forward from this, and I hope that it's gonna be hard, but we come back together as a team after this. But we do have to hold each other accountable. Thank you, President Smith Folds. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Clerk Gonzalez Hoy. Anyone else would like to initiate their 3 minutes? I would. We have been charged to be duty-bound and determined in keeping and setting a standard that is above reproach, with the goal always being the pursuit of excellence. That's part of the job. We are held to a higher standard because we represent the people. The people voted us in to sit in this position to make decisions about not only their livelihood as employees, but the livelihood of their children. We have to be able to sit here with a level of integrity that is above reproach. Just because it has never been done, one, doesn't mean it shouldn't have, and two, doesn't mean it should not be done now. The argument that it's never been done before is a false one, to say that that's the reason why we should not do it now. That, in my opinion, makes little sense. If we do not step out and say to our community, those that voted us in, and to the students of the district, that if you do something that's wrong and substantiate it as such, then you will be held accountable. Then why are we here trying to educate? Education goes beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic. We are trying to help cultivate citizens of our community, citizens that can act with a level of honesty, integrity, and transparency. We are here to represent the entire district, not just the area of the people who voted us in. We are here to represent the entire district. With that, Area 1 should be covered by those who were voted in by Area 2, 3, 4, and 5. Area 2 should be covered by those who were voted in Area 1, 3, 4, and 5, and so on. I have to say that it is highly disturbing to me that we have members of the community that think that they will be disenfranchised if one board member receives the consequence of their behavior. I am here to say that you will not be disenfranchised. You will continue to be taken care of by the board, as you have always been taken care of by the board. Dr. Hurst, if we wanted to do a straw poll, it would be a straw poll of whose voices have not been marginalized in this district, whose voices always come to the forefront. There is not a chance that your voice will be marginalized because your voice has been entrenched in this district, as it should and as should everyone else's. I want to make sure that we are all under the understanding that actions have consequences, because that is what we tell our children. I am complete. I am now, if there are no other initial comments from board members, I will now call on Trustee Reckler. Trustee Reckler, you and/or your attorney or representative now have the reasonable amount of time of 10 minutes to speak in your defense, to have the fair opportunity to defend yourself without being subject to the 3-minute timer. Go ahead. Let's put 10 minutes on the clock, please. Trustee Reckler, you may.
This censure resolution is a witch hunt intent on publicly embarrassing me and silencing my independent and outspoken voice that holds the board and the superintendent to account. I wholeheartedly disagree with it and deny the allegations made against me. I disagree with the allegation that I am in violation of Board Bylaw 9005 and 9270 for twice voting to remove consent items involving district athletic fundraisers from board meeting agendas, therefore constituting a bias in favor of SAF. This allegation is ridiculous. No law nor WCC USD board policy indicates the manner by which nor reason for a consent item to be removed from an agenda. It is the fundamental obligation of all trustees to ensure that they fully understand what is being requested of them prior to performing their legislative duties on matters that come before the board. As decided in Degrassi versus City of Glendora, Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in 2000, courts have determined that legislators have a First Amendment right to address matters of public concern. Board members have a constitutional right to request longer discussion, explanation on an item prior to the vote in the same meeting or at a future meeting. The superintendent was not adequately able to answer my questions prior to these meetings, and at my suggestion, he removed the item from the January 11th, 2023 meeting to have, quote, continued conversations with board members. Your resolution implies that I acted alone, improperly, or perhaps tricked you. This is not true. On both occasions, a correctly constituted quorum of the board properly moved, seconded, and unanimously voted to remove or offered no objection to removal. The board's professional parliamentarian, Ms. Tanny Dunning, was in attendance. Each of you had the right and opportunity to question the reason for removal. Each of you could have put another motion on the floor directing a different action. None of you did. You may find these videos on the district's YouTube channel, August 3rd, 2022, at the 1 hour, 4 minute mark, and the January 11th, 2023 meeting at the 53-minute mark. Over the course of 1.5 years, neither the superintendent nor the agenda setting committee has adequately addressed these items. The superintendent never convened the continued conversations with board members referenced in the January 11th, 2023 meeting, and the agenda setting team seemingly never reviewed what was pulled from the agenda, the reason why, and re-agendized the matter in a format allowing for a longer discussion. I have no ability to create the board's agenda. This responsibility lies with the agenda setting team composed of the superintendent, the board president, and the board clerk. Their failings should not serve as a basis for any finding of impropriety on my part. Although the censure resolution seems to center around my objection to using an online platform called SnapRaise, my concerns have nothing to do with the fundraising vehicle, but rather with access and equity to all. Among my main concerns, this is the first time that I can recall a central office department requesting a particular fundraising vehicle for schools. It also is the first time that I can recall a central office department asking to fundraise for itself. January 11th, 2023 item says that district athletics is going to fundraise for district athletics. Why is the privilege only being offered to athletics when there are many more departments and programs that could use financial help? As far as I can tell, board fundraising policies do not adequately address any of this. The last time they were reviewed was in 2007, 2008, and 2009. Additionally, board policy 1321 requires that all fundraisers come to the board for approval, yet fundraising is starting prior to the board approval. One fundraiser started July 1, yet appeared on an August 3rd calendar agenda, which is full month after the fundraiser has already commenced. And the second time this occurred, the fundraiser started on January 3rd, but appeared on January 11th. Moving on to allegations of conflicts of interest that I, a board member, participated in the making of a decision for the district that may affect his or her financial, family, other personal interests, board member may not engage in employment activity or hold any office that is inconsistent with, incompatible with, or amenable to board member duties in the district. Again, I dispute this finding. Laws of conflict of interest under the Political Reform Act and common law conflict of interest doctrine are very clear. I did not have a conflict of interest when I served as a volunteer on a nonprofit 501c3 board concurrent with public office. Under California Government Code, Section 1091.5A8, I had a non-interest in any and all contracts with SAF because I was a volunteer, non-compensated officer of a nonprofit tax-exempt corporation, which, as one of its primary purposes, supports the functions of the WCC-USD. And if I hadn't in the past, I'm now noting of this interest in this board meeting's record. Government Code Section 82005 of the Political Reform Act defines a business entity as entities operated for profit. Thus, a nonprofit entity such as SAF, a 501c3, does not equate to a business entity under the Act, and in my prior position as a board member of SAF, would not have been a financial interest in the SAF under the Act pursuant to the Government Code 87103. In order to have a financial interest in the SAF, I would have had to receive at least $500 per year in compensation, and I have received none. Thus, no conflict of interest exists or existed under the Act regarding my prior service on the SAF board. The law interprets incompatible office as holding two public offices, serving on a city council and a school board simultaneously, not a nonprofit board. Therefore, there is no possible basis to conclude that my prior service on the SAF board resulted in me violating the doctrine of incompatible public offices. Not surprisingly, no legal basis whatsoever is provided for the conclusion that a conflict of interest was present. Moving on to matters involving SAF. I did not notify El Cerrito High School Administration, District HR, nor the district superintendent when I found out about Mr. Bishop had allegedly committed violations. It was an unintentional oversight that I do regret. I did correct the violations by retraining the parent volunteers and Mr. Bishop, and ensured correct operating procedures were implemented and followed. However, this minor technical violation does not merit and is not commensurate with the degree of penalty imposed by this censure. In respect to the allegation that in response to El Cerrito High School's request for an audit report that I alone failed to provide backup financial information in the format requested is missing important context and facts. The duty and responsibility to create and approve audit reports is not vested with one board member, but with an entire board. And on October 25, 2022, the entire SAF Executive Board approved the submission. Making me the scapegoat for an entire board's actions is misguided. I believe you talk about a slow response in regard to a Korematsu fundraiser. Those are incorrect. I believe I became aware on Friday, November 18th, and had a call with members of SAF Board on Sunday, November 2nd, November 20th at 7:30 p.m. So that's 2 days when the matter was turned over to the SAF president. Like this board, the SAF president acts as the spokesperson for the group. I do not know when other notifications happened, but I know that your claims of delayed response are not accurately reflected. The allegation that I accessed a drive without a proper legitimate business reason neglects that there are no policies, practices, or procedures that outline document safeguarding or access. And out of courtesy in my SAF resignation letter, I indicated I had, quote, no physical records or files, unquote, meaning paper documents. SAF had no office such that physical records, files, and supplies are transferred from treasurer to treasurer. I confirmed that I had nothing in my possession, no physical records, totes, stamps, checks, or other documents in my possession. Admonishing me for what I should include in a resignation letter is simply preposterous. I welcome the opportunity to respond to the questions or inquiries from the district attorney or the Fair Political Practices Commission to review and render decisions on this matter. At the close of tonight's meeting, I'll be submitting my own documents to these entities. Most people would wait for these entities to confirm malfeasance prior to a board passing a censure resolution. I request this rebuttal be included in the board's January 10th, 2024 minutes.
Thank you so much, Trustee Reckler. Now we are going to move to, following the Trustee Reckler's response, then debate will be opened up among the members of the board. 2 minutes. Each board member can have 2 minutes to respond, have a comment, etc. We are going to, so we're going to start with Clerk Gonzalez Hoy, and then we will move to Trustee Phillips and then Trustee Christian. Trustee Phillips, do you have a point of order?
Yes.
What's your point?
So before I say it, I just want to make sure I understand. So this right here is supposed to be whatever response we want to her, but this is before the debate.
This is the debate.
This is the debate.
This is the debate. What we're doing right now, after following Trustee Reckler's response, then debate will be opened up among the members of the board. This is debate. She has responded, Trustee Reckler has responded, and now we are at the moment of debate.
And this is the 2 minutes.
This is 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. We are going to start with Clerk Gonzalez Hoy and then work our way around. Go ahead, Clerk Gonzalez Hoy, 2 minutes are on the clock.
Thank you, President Smith Folds, and thank you, Trustee Reckler, for your statement. I think what I have found really difficult through this process is that, honestly, it is the first time that I've heard Trustee Reckler share regret in any of the claims. All the claims from the investigation came out true, and our legal counsel and a third-party legal counsel investigator share that there are conflict of interest, that everything was sustained, right? I know that Trustee Reckler has a different perspective of that, but that's what we have to base our decision on. Now, trustee Reckler mentioned regret for not reporting Mr. Bishop. That is not what was shared to me when I spoke to Miss Reckler, to trustee Reckler, where she shared with me, and I shared with the rest of the board, that it was a known open secret that Mr. Bishop was doing it, which there was no regret. Also in that conversation, she had mentioned there was a stipend.
President,
So,
President, I have a point of order.
Trustee Phillips, what's your point?
When I was trying to talk about previous stuff, you guys are like, you can't talk about closed session, but none of these discussions that we're hearing now, lawyers and all of that stuff
I'm not
didn't
talking
happen
about
out
closed
here.
session though. This is not closed session.
Conversations with lawyers, all of that stuff, don't talk about it. That's what I heard. And now, you know, and like even President Gonzalez said, when I shared with the board, well, where was that? Because it wasn't in an open session.
I should have clarified, it was the ethics subcommittee.
I'm
that we
just
shared.
saying, which would have been in closed session, because that's not a public meeting. So I'm just trying to say the rules should apply the same, that apply to me, to everybody else about what we're able to speak to and what we can't, because I got a lot of stuff I want to say.
President Gonzalez, if I'm doing something wrong, please do correct me and I'd be happy to stuff.
Clerk
check.
Gonzalez Hoy, please continue. Ms. Mayola, you are here for a specified reason. If there is something happening, you have carte blanche to please interrupt and make sure that we are all following all the things that we have agreed to when we were sworn in as board members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Smith,
Go ahead.
President Folds. What I was trying to get to is that if that regret would have been shared, if there weren't these differences of conversations in trustee Reckler's statements, I wouldn't have voted to bring forward a resolution. I wouldn't have even voted to refer her to the FPC and the DA's office, because ultimately I didn't want to do that because of the relationship and the work that trustee Reckler has done in this district, but also because of the relationship that her and I had. But tonight is the first time in 4 months that I've heard that regret. So makes me really question, right, that regret. Also, essential resolution is a huge deal for us. And in my opinion, we don't really have a choice, since all the claims of an investigation have shared that they have been, positive on the investigation. So I don't believe that we actually have a choice, because nothing came back as wrong, as negative, to the claims. Thank you, President Smith Folds.
Thank you so much, Clerk Gonzalez Hoy. Trustee Phillips?
Is it okay if I just listen for a moment?
Absolutely. Can you please pause this time? Anyone else have, any other board member would like to be part of the debate? Any other board member have anything else to say?
Well, if nobody's going to say anything.
I have something to say, but I will do it after you, sir. So feel free to go ahead. Please start this clock.
I think that this is a mistake. First, this is an unprecedented action. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that a board member has ever been censured potentially in this district or Richmond Unified, which preceded this district. This has never happened before. And my question is, why is it happening? This board has already voted to take serious action against trustee Reckler. This board voted to refer her to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. This board voted to refer her to the Fair Political Practices Commission for criminal prosecution. All that this board is doing now is just publicly humiliating a trustee. I know that this board thinks that its censure power is somehow I don't know what this board thinks, but humiliating a trustee is all that's happening right now, and there's no cause for it because you've already referred her to the authorities. This is just kicking somebody while they're down. And I think that this is going to come back and bite some trustees. And I'm not necessarily sure that it's Trustee Reckler that this is going to come back and bite. I think people should vote no. And if they're uncomfortable, I think they should abstain.
Thank you so much, Trustee Phillips. If I could have 2 minutes on the clock. I think that board members should 100% vote yes for the censure. We had our own ethics committee review the investigation, and the investigation itself, 85 plus pages, or 80 plus pages, found that everything that was alleged was sustained. That's how we do it. If there is an allegation brought, we have an investigation. That investigation then turns around and tells us the results of the investigation. Then it's incumbent upon the board to make a decision about what we just found out. That's how we have done it. That is how we will continue to do it. And that is the only thing that's happening right now. An allegation was brought forth. An investigation occurred. Findings were sustained. And now we are having the consequences that go with those sustained allegations. We do that with employees. We do that at many, many levels at this district. That's what we're doing here. To categorize it any other way is false. It's just false. There can be an idea of victimization, but if there is not facts behind that, then it's just a feeling. I will not apologize for doing what we were elected to do, which is to hold each other accountable. Once again, we have to be held above reproach, and that's what we're doing. Trustee Phillips, your idea that other trustees will get bit behind this, if it has to happen, and I'm going to take privilege as board president, if that is what's going to happen, then let it happen. But I will not run away or cower behind a veiled threat. We have all been on this board for 3+ years. If someone had something to say, file your claim so an investigation can happen. And then we will take the same steps that we have done right now with Trustee Reckler, and we will have the same conversation again if the Ethics Committee warrants it. That's our job. There are no victims sitting on this board right now. There are elected members who are to be held accountable for what they do, how they behave, and what they say. Thank you very much. We are now going, I'm going to say, Ms. Mayola, can I ask for more comments, more debate? Or do we go directly into the vote? Hold on one second, Trustee Phillips.
Yes, you certainly can. It's again, under what we have previously said tonight in terms of the board president having the authority to run the board meeting. You certainly can ask for additional comments, or you can ask for call the vote.
I'll give it one more round. If you have something to say, this is the time to say it. You will still have 2 minutes. Trustee Phillips, do you have something else to say? Thank you. Put up the timer, please, ma'ams. Thank you. Go ahead, sir. You have your 2 minutes.
So I want to just make sure that I tell you and everyone, I was not threatening you, veiled or otherwise. I don't threaten people. I was saying what I think is the truth. I think that this is a mistake. And I think that at some point, this precedent that the board is setting, this new thing that the board is doing, I think it is going to come back and bite the board in the behind. I don't know what board member it's gonna bite. I don't know if it's gonna bite a board member in this cycle or the next cycle. But I think that this is going to blow back on the board. But I just want to be very clear, that reference wasn't to you. Trustee Reckler, in her comments, she made some statements about what happened after she pulled the items, that she wanted to discuss those items with the superintendent. Basically, she wanted to have discussion. But I would have loved to have heard from the superintendent, right? Because it's one thing for somebody to pull an item, if she did, or what people are accusing her of doing, to pull it, to bury it. It's a whole nother thing for her to pull it and try to have a discussion about it before it comes back on the agenda. And if she did that, that is something that the board should take into consideration, because that's not stopping a vote. That's trying to have discussion on a vote, not just letting something go through on the consent calendar. The last thing that and it's important, it's an important distinction. The last thing that I want to say is this. I have heard a lot of talk about board unity from the majority of this board. If you do this, you are causing irreparable harm to this board. And I do not know how in the world the unity that you're talking about will ever happen.
Thank you so much, Trustee Phillips. Anyone else? Go ahead, Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy.
Thank you, President Smith Folds. I don't want to hold us too much longer, but what I will say is I do think that we are setting a precedent, a positive precedent to show community that we are holding each other accountable, right? And that we're not just letting everything go, right? Last year when I was board president, almost every board member on this board got a complaint or something to them, but most of those, obviously all except for one, show that there was no substantial information or whatever to bring it forward, right? So unfortunately, this one showed, again, every single claim showed that there was wrongdoing, right? So this one is different. And I do think that people went through the process and there would have been additional censures if necessary, if there would have been other claims that would have been sustained on other board members, right? But that was not the case, right? And either a Title IX complaint or a regular complaint or investigation did not show that for anyone else, right? So, and there were other board members who shared conflict of interest and met with Ms. Miola, Dr. Hurst, and me to talk about conflict of interest. And when there was discussions about that, and there were other deliberations, and none of that led to this. So unfortunately, we are taking a action on a situation that is different than the rest. And we are setting a precedent that we are going to hold each other accountable, just like we hold our staff accountable when we put them in admin leave, when there's allegations, and then we ensure there's an investigation. And if they are found there's wrongdoing, we hold them accountable, right? And unfortunately, this is the only way to do so. Hopefully this won't happen again to anyone, but unfortunately, it's the choice that has to be made. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My final comment, and if we could have a 2-minute timer put on. My final comment is, Trustee Phillips, I want to address what you're saying. We have a way of holding the superintendent accountable. We have that through his half-year review and through his yearly review. We have a way, as Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy just said, holding our employees accountable through administrative leave, investigation, uniform complaints, Title IX complaints, et cetera. And we have a way of holding the board accountable. This is what's happening here. I want to speak to unity. Unity is great. Doing your job is better. We all have a job to do, whether we like each other, whether we're unified or uniformed. We have to do our job. If a board member is not doing that and breaking board bylaw and has a sustained findings and investigations, it's incumbent upon us to do our job. Do I want us to be unified? Absolutely. Do I want us to do our job? 100%. There has been tension on this board since 2020, but we still did our job. The call for unity has been happening at President Gonzalez Hoy called for unity when he was president. I called for unity when I was president. Trustee Christian, when he was president, he called for unity. Unity means showing up to do your job. Showing up because we have one accord. We are all voted in to do a job. Part of that job, show up to retreats, be unified. When we come up with our board norms. Part of unity, show up to closed session because that's when we have these discussions. That's being unified so we can stand as one voice. Part of being unity, show up to your one-on-ones because that's when the questions can be answered so we can be unified when we get out on time as board members. There's a lot of unity that we need to keep going and have established at this board. What I'm not going to do is say yes because what I'm not going to do is say yes or no based on the fear that if I say yes or no, then we're not going to be unified. It still means we have to do our job. I will not be put in a corner under an idea that if I vote a certain way, then I'm going to hurt board relationships. I want us to have good board relationships, but good board relationships mean that you tell each other the truth. It means that you hold each other accountable. It means that you do the job in front of you, whether you like each other or you don't. You still behave with a level of decorum and integrity and honesty and transparency because that's what you were voted in to do. I don't want to have a lot of you over for coffee. Sorry. But I will stand in here and I will do my job with you because you were voted in, I was voted in, and we are here to do a job to take care of the entire district. And that's what we're here to do. I take umbrage to the fact that if I vote a certain way, then I'm creating discord on this board when I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. The wrongness was not done with me or with other members of the board. The accountability and the unification should not be on us that are doing our job when we're having a conversation and taking a vote about holding another board member accountable. I am complete. We are now moving to the vote. Ms. Mayola, am I correct? Thank you.
Yes.
We are voting on to censure Trustee Reckler. The resolution was read. We are now voting on if we are going to censure Trustee Reckler. We're going to start with our student trustees. Trustee Cypress-Set.
I abstain.
Thank you. Trustee Callip.
I abstain.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips.
No.
Thank you. Trustee Reckler.
Reckler, no.
Thank you. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez, oh, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Christian.
Yes.
Thank you. President Smith Folds is also a yes. Hearing that, we have 3 yes and 2 noes. There must be 3 affirmative votes to pass. The resolution has been passed. Thank you, board. Board, I would request that we take a 5-minute to center ourselves, and we will come back at 9:32. Thank you so much, public. We will be back at 9:32. We are now on E2, Williams Lawsuit Complaints Quarterly Report. Mr. Freeze, I believe this is your item, sir. We can't hear you, Mr. Freeze, your little microphone, sir.
Let's try this one.
There you go.
All right. Tonight we bring for you is the quarterly Williams report for the period between October 1st and December 31st of 2023. We had 0 textbooks and material items. Teacher vacancies and misled assignments were 0. And we had 2 facility conditions reported, and those were resolved.
Thank you so much. Do we have any public comment? Do we do public comment? Hold on one second.
We have no public comment.
Thanks, Fran. wonderful clerk Gonzalez Hoy just told me we don't do public comment on this. We just do it on our action items. So or our discussion items. So thank you, Fran. Board, do we have any questions? Trustee Reckler, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Freeze. I was under the impression that Washington Elementary was going to hand in a Williams complaint for very hot kindergarten classrooms. Did that not happen or miss the cutoff?
I have not seen a complaint for Washington Elementary. There were concerns raised, but I have not seen a formal complaint. I can check with my office tomorrow, though.
Okay, and my follow-up to that is that I did see on consent that there was a window tinting project at Washington, which may have headed off the complaint. Do we know if window tinting works? My understanding is that when they did it at Korematsu, it was not a successful project.
We did one classroom as a trial at Washington. And I believe it's been 3 years. And when we were in there early this year, there was a noticeable temperature difference between the classroom with window tinting and the classroom without. So those classrooms that were facing the western exposure, we did those particular classrooms in hope of lowering those temperatures within those rooms.
Okay, thank you. So this is a watch and wait for Washington, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Any further questions from board members? No? Can I get a motion?
I'll move Williams lawsuit complaints quarterly report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion from the board? Comments? Yes, trustee Reckler?
I mean, I just want to recommend the Washington as watch to avoid a Williams complaint. I mean, people came to me and said that those classrooms were 80, 90 degrees, leading to sickness and absences. So if that could be kept on a watch list, that'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the board? Okay, to the vote. Trustee Cypher-Surt?
Cypher-Surt, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Callip?
Caleb, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Reckler?
Reckler, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Christian?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez Hoy?
Gonzalez Hoy abstains.
Thank you. Smith Folds abstains. Thank you very much. We are now going to our consent items that were pulled. The first consent item that was pulled was number 2, C2. So we're going to C2, award of contract for Cameron School improvement project. Trustee Reckler, I believe you pulled this one.
I did. Thank you. Mr. Freeze, at our last meeting, we, especially me, was very disappointed to see contracts come back way over asking for approving of overage of contract. Have these contracts been properly spec'd C2, C3, C4, so that the chances, and I understand that you cannot know everything, but that they will come in more in line and come correct?
We believe they will. The item that was pulled C2, there were 7 bids on that project. 4 of those bids fell within $40,000, $50,000 of each other. We believe it was a very competitive process for that. And so we have a high level of confidence in the work underneath C2.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further. With that, I will move award of contract for Cameron School Tenant Improvement Project.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Board, any comments? Seeing none, we'll move straight to the vote. Trustee Cypher-Surt?
Cypher-Surt, yes.
Trustee Callip? Thank you.
Caleb, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Reckler?
Reckler, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Christian?
Yes.
Thank you. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy?
Yes.
Thank you, and I'm a yes. Thank you. We are now moving to C9, Parent Square Annual Renewal. Trustee Reckler, I believe you pulled this one.
I did, thank you. So when Parent Square was sold to the board, or came to the board for approval, the board asked, can we get on these email lists so that we can find out what's going on in our schools? The answer from Mr. Phillips was yes, of course. And then after the contract was approved, board members were not able to be added, nor the community, onto Parent Square to find out what's going on in their trustee area schools or any schools. So have any updates been made to the contract that would allow that to happen? And I'm assuming I'm going to answer my own question, no. And then there is a package that could be bought that's called community groups. And I'd like to know if community groups would solve that issue of board members being able to pop in and find out what's going on in their schools, and also the community, prospective parents, and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much. Dr. Hurst, do you have staff available to answer that question or to comment on that?
Rochelle.
Yes, I can comment on that. Trustee Reckler, we will look into that information and get back to you on it. We'll have to do a little research on that.
Okay, thank you. And then I have a comment.
Any other questions? Board, can I get a motion? I move Parent Square annual renewal. Board, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Board, do we have any comment? Trustee Reckler?
I have comment. So it is impossible for me to find out what is going on in my own trustee area schools. Impossible. I do not know how to find out what is going on with them. If I'm lucky, I'll get an email sometimes from the PTA. Sometimes I'll see something on Instagram, but to exclude board members from their own trustee area school communication streams is just, it is not okay. Further, I had a lot of skepticism before I put my own kids in WCC USD schools. I'd heard a lot of things that were negative, and I really wasn't sure that it was a decision I was going to make for my family. And I was allowed to get on all of their e-trees. And what I found out is that there's some amazing things going on in our schools, and I gained a lot of confidence. And I know other people have as well, and allowed me to talk about what's going on in our schools and to promote them and to be proud of my children's acceptance and their successes that they've had there. I cannot encourage you more to find a way to put the general public back onto the communication streams of schools. This is direly important for the promotion and marketing of our schools. And this needs to be figured out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments? I do have a comment, and pardon me, I forgot to put the clock up, but we are on 1.5 comments. I do have a comment. As a parent of 2 children now in the district, one just graduated out. One of the things that I found to be very useful is for me to have a relationship with the administration. As a board member, I continue to have a relationship with administrators. With that relationship with administrators, as a board member, speaking as a board member, there is a level of communication that comes from area, not only 1, but area 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is a way, until we can have this question answered, until we can take a deeper dive, I encourage board members, make sure you reach out to those administrators and say, let me know when your SSCs are, let me know when your APACs are, let me know when your ELACs are, let me know when you're having an event at your school. Let me know, because I want to show up, I want to be present, I want to make sure that I am there and able to show support. I know that Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy, you do that. I know that several other board members do that. That is just one way to answer that question, is to create those and maintain and grow those relationships with our administrators, as well as our PTAs, as well as our PTOs, as well as the parents that show up every single day to do yard supervision, as well as those aides, as well as the staff, as well as the secretary. Develop those relationships so they can then keep us in the know, until we have our absolutely stellar communication partners tell us what the next steps are. So thank you very much for all you do. Dr. Hurst, you have now heard that. We're going to put that as something that we need to discuss to make sure that we're able to bring that back to the board. Trustee Reckler, that will be brought back to the board for clarification. Thank you so very much. Now we are moving to the vote. Okay, we're going to move to the vote. Trustee Cypress-Sert, your vote?
Cypress-Sert, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Caleb?
Caleb, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Reckler?
Reckler, no.
Thank you. Trustee Christian?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm a yes. Thank you so very much. We're now moving to C12, approval of fundraising activities. Trustee Reckler, I believe you pulled this one.
I did. Thank you very much. So the reason why I pulled this is because the board's policy handbook, administrative regulation 1321, solicitation of funds from the students. All funds must be approved by the school board. So I want to understand what the superintendent's and staff's interpretation of that is. All fundraisers need to be approved by the school board. And specifically, I want to know, does it mean before they happen? Or is it okay after they happen or in the middle?
I'll take that question. I think as with everything that we do within our district, we try to stay student-centered. The fundraisers that are coming before you tonight for approval were for student activities at Richmond High. I did also recognize prior to bringing them to the board that we were late in getting the paperwork from the executive director. The principal had submitted the paperwork on time. I understand that the fundraisers did happen and that we are late giving approval. However, that's a conversation we need to have with that executive director who signed late. And I did not believe that the students and the school site should be held accountable for that late signature. So it is something that I will follow up on, and it is our intention to follow all board policies and ensure that fundraisers are approved prior to happening. In this case, that did not happen.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else.
Trustee Reckler, would you like to move the item?
No.
Okay, any board member would like to move the item?
I'll move that we approve the fundraisers attached.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Go ahead, Trustee Reckler.
Based on what happened this evening, fundraisers need to get really tightened up and need to go back through this administrative regulation and the board policy and really adhere to the timelines in it. Thank you.
Any other comments? To the vote? Trustee Cypress-Sert?
Cypress-Sert, yes.
Trustee Caleb?
Caleb, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips?
Yes.
Trustee Christian?
Yes.
Trustee Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. I paused for a minute, board, because I just want to say, CBO Moses, thank you for your explanation. Thank you for explaining what happened. What happened falls in the realm of reasonable. What happened has a level of accountability to it. You said that you're going to talk to the person who dropped that ball and ensure that that ball is not dropped again. Thank you for that. Dr. Hurst, thank you for your oversight that will go along with that. We may move on.
Point of order.
Yes.
I didn't vote.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Trustee Reckler, your vote?
Reckler, no.
Thank you. Let me just make sure that we recorded those votes correctly because it kind of went out of order. Trustee Cypress-Sert was a yes. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Cypress-Sert was a yes. Caleb was a yes. Trustee Phillips was a yes. Trustee Christian was a yes. Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy was a yes. Trustee Reckler was a no, and I was a yes. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Trustee Reckler. We are now to C13 contracts. Trustee Phillips, I believe you pulled the Mindful Life contract.
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. And I think that this is a teaching moment. When you have a board member who keeps pulling an item off of consent, whether it's the SNAP, whatever it was with Trustee Reckler, or whether it's the Williams with me, or Mindful Life with me. What has happened with the Williams quarterly reports is those items are no longer put on consent. They're put on discussion because people know that I want to talk about them. And it just makes everyone's life easier. But that SNAP thing with Trustee Reckler, right, it should have just been put on discussion, because then it wouldn't have been an issue of her continuously pulling it off of consent, or whoever did it. This item, Mindful Life, right? The reason that this is a teaching moment and I'm using it, right, is because this item has been put on consent, right? And I pulled it off, and somebody putting it back on consent again, right? I think we can circumvent some of the problems that we have if we just actually take our board members into consideration when we're putting things on the agenda. So it wouldn't have been hard, for example, to figure that she would pull the SNAP thing. It wouldn't be hard to figure that I would pull this, because I've been adamantly opposed to this, right? But it just went on consent. So it's just a teaching moment. And obviously people could keep putting stuff on consent, but this whole thing about people pulling stuff off, just put it on discussion if you know it's controversial for one of the board members, and then you don't have to deal with it anymore. I mean, that issue about somebody taking something off consent. And I'm not saying this is not specific to you, because I mean, this is your first full meeting as a board president, right? So I'm speaking to the group, right? We have had multiple conversations. Well, I've had multiple conversations about Mindful Life over the years. And this board has had conversations about Mindful Life as well. And then the last time that it came, then I don't remember how it went away. I don't remember we voted on it. I don't remember it was tabled. I just don't remember right now. But then there was community input about it. People were sending emails in about it. And a lot of them were negative. And then it just went away for a really long time. And now it's back on consent. I'm not going to repeat everything, that I've said in the past, because I think you've all heard me talk about it. But I pulled it off because I don't think that this is something that we should be restarting in our district, and I would like to vote no. But I'm also asking, if you know an issue's coming that a board member has concerns about, just save everybody the trouble. Let's just put it on discussion, right? That's my opinion, right? But that's all I wanted to say. Whatever the vote's going to be, it's going to be. I just wanted to vote no, and share what I just shared.
Thank you, Trustee Phillips. Dr. Hurst, you had something that you wanted to say?
I was just going to acknowledge your comments, sir, but also share that I know when our previous CEO, Ms. Larisha Huffman, was here, and Dr. McIntyre, they actually investigated the matter, and they had a lot of conversations, and then they came back and did a formal presentation to the board and share with the board that we found no concerns at this time, even though there may have been concerns previously. So based on that, that's why it moved forward. I think it moved forward with a couple of sites. And again, I'm not speaking against what you said about putting it on discussion for the future, but I just wanted to give you a little bit more background about the investigation that transpired since I've been here.
Well, thank you. I do remember that there was a look into it. And I remember there was some follow-up questions after that look. So that didn't end it, but I do agree there was a look into it. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, everyone. Any more questions? Yes, may I have a motion?
I'll go ahead and move Mindful Life.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? I'm sorry, any comments? Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy?
Thank you, President Smith Folds. I just wanted to mention that I think it's almost impossible for us to think about, as the previous board president who made the agendas, to think about who's gonna have problems with what. We could all have problems with different items, and we could be here till 3 a.m. by us just putting everything in discussion and action. So I think that's really difficult. I think that board members have the responsibility to tell you if they want to pull something for discussion, because then actually staff can prepare for those questions ahead of time. Which with me, that didn't occur every time, right? So I do think that it's unreasonable to tell you to plan that, because you don't know what I have problems with unless I voice them to you specifically. And I don't know if they've been resolved since maybe the previous time, 2 years ago or 3 years ago that you brought it up. So I just want to express that, because we would put you in an impossible position to think about getting our heads about what we care about and what we don't care about, even if there's legitimacy to the concerns about specific item like Mindful Life. So just want to share those two thoughts.
Thank you, board. It is now 9:59. I need to extend this meeting, so I would like to have your support in that. I would like to extend the meeting. We have to do, and I have to move fast. We have to do the, there's no discussion items. This is the last item or action under consent. Then we have comments from the board reflection, and our next scheduled meeting. Can I please have an extension till 10:30? I don't think we would use all of that time.
I'll move that we extend till 10:30.
Thank you all. Second, to the vote. Trustee Cypress,
yes.
thank you. Trustee Callup.
Caleb, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips.
Yeah.
Thank you. Trustee Reckler.
Reckler, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Christian.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Please, Ms. Rosa, remind me what I just said, 10:30 or 10:15? 10:30? Thank you, sir. 10:30. Okay, board. I appreciate your support in that. I do want to speak to what Clerk Gonzalez Hoy said and what Trustee Phillips has brought up. It is hard for me to know, as your board president, everything that may be an issue with you to put on consent. We have a process. The process that we have, we go through it. If we're talking about particular contracts, they go through a extensive process to get on to what I like to refer to as the buffet. And then sites have the ability to pick from that buffet. I encourage all board members, if you still have an issue and you need to pull something off consent, do so. But please also go to your one-on-ones. See if you can have those questions answered beforehand, because that would help move our meetings along and stay within our time frame of making sure that we are getting out in a timely manner to help support staff and ourselves, because we all have things to do the next day. So please go to your one-on-ones. Please ask those questions. And staff is prepared to answer if something is pulled. We have a very organized staff that's prepared to answer that question. So please don't feel limited. If you see something on the consent item, please pull it. And then it will be answered. It will be discussed. We have all kind of got into that habit, but one way to mitigate pulling so many items, board, go to your one-on-ones. Ask the questions ahead of time. Make sure that we're following through with the procedures that we have set to have a very efficient meeting. Thank you so very much. We are now going to the vote. We are going to vote on the Mindful Life contract. It's been motioned and properly seconded. Trustee Cypress,
yes.
thank you. Trustee Callup.
Caleb, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips.
No.
Thank you. Trustee Reckler.
Reckler, yes.
Thank you. Trustee Christian.
Abstain.
Thank you. Trustee Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez, yes.
Thank you. And I'm a yes. Thank you very much. We are now moving to, we have 0 discussion items for this agenda. We are now moving to G, comments from the Board of Education and future agenda items. We are going to have 3 minutes for comments. Board will have 3 minutes apiece to make our comments. Is there anyone who would like to start the comments from the board? Thank you. Trustee Cypress, we will start with you. We will put 3 minutes on the clock and we will give you your 3 minutes. Go ahead, ma'am.
I would like to start off by thanking everyone for the kindness I've been shown throughout my term as a student trustee. As Dr. Hurst mentioned, I do a lot of things, but this is because I refuse to waste my potential. I hold myself to a high standard, and I know I have the power to shape my own future. The genuine passion I have for our community motivates me to continuously do better. Today is me and Tristan's last board meeting, and it has truly been an honor to assume this role, and the knowledge and experience I've gained is unparalleled. Being a voice and advocate for change in my community has always been a large passion of mine. This opportunity gave me the platform to do so, in which I am very grateful for. Recognizing how much hard work and dedication goes on behind the scenes, I appreciate all of your contributions to the school district and my learning experience throughout my time being here. Becoming acquainted with all of you has been an amazing privilege, and I thank all of you for that. And thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Any other comments from the board? Trustee Caleb.
Yeah, so I'd also like to say thank you for even providing me with the opportunity to serve on this board. Before I even started, like I didn't know anything about how the district worked, how voting worked, how any policies were in place. But I did know that what I wanted to do was to as I was eager to amplify student voices and to contribute to the development of the WCC USD community, because I'm in it, my friends are in it, and all conversation that was going around about like why our school or why my school isn't as best as it could be is all my friends talk about is the district, like, and what's going on. But now that I've been here for some time and I've understand what goes on behind the scenes, I'm always nonstop talking to my peers about what I've learned throughout my time serving, and what's presented and how I've listened and really told them what's going on, because they don't know. They're not gonna watch a board meeting that happens for 3 hours every other Wednesday. They're not gonna do that. And since I'm doing that, I feel like I have the obligation. And since I was given the opportunity to do so, I know that that I have made an impact through my understanding of the board, and because of how I've been able to act as a liaison between students and the board. Moreover, having the opportunity to present a project that me and I have made about amplifying a teacher's voice for quality education also allowed me to recognize the mark that I can and have done in my community. And I'll continue to strive. I'll continue embodying my value for others. And I'll leave this term continuing to take initiative to create changes regardless of where I am in life, because this opportunity allowed me to do so. And I also wanted to quickly update on what's been happening in ASC. As previously mentioned, we were split into subcommittees, which include satisfying student hunger, campus security, social and academic opportunities, and funds and resources. In ASC, the meeting that happened Monday here actually at the John Middle, we basically just divided into our subcommittees and talked about what our goal in each subcommittee is. Each student trustee has their own different subcommittee, and we're responsible of kind of helping other all student Congress members into executing whatever they have. And then in regards to the In-N-Out fries, as someone like I am, as when I work at In-N-Out, like I'm nonstop touching potatoes. Like I'm in charge of peeling them, I'm in charge of cutting them, I put them in the fryer, I portion them into a bag. And honestly, like I'm just always touching a potato, and I understand how like the fries, they're not that good. I agree. That's why I get mine like light well or well. But even like putting them in the fryer for that much longer is annoying. But the only thing I can do is just do my job. I mean, I work for In-N-Out. I just provide what they want to provide.
Well, point of order. Just in case his employer is listening, he's just joking.
Absolutely.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
you
yeah.
so
I'm
much.
joking.
Thank you so
but
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gallup. You are a wonderful In-N-Out employee, and we know that you do the very best you can. Any other comments from the board? Trustee Reckler, go ahead, ma'am.
So once again, I want to thank our student trustees, and I'll see you at graduation. And I know I need to know in advance if hugs aren't okay, because I am going to give you a mom hug. So if that, if I could start coming at you, make sure you wave me off. So first, I want to recognize the passing of Anton Younger. I don't scare easy, and Anton scared the crap out of me. He was the scariest person I ever met, so much that I made my husband get on the CBOC because I was like, there's this guy and he needs to get reined in. In the end, we ended up actually being quite good friends, and my husband had a lot to do with the formation of the California, well, not the formation, but he was on the board, secretary, things like that, advice on the California CBOC. Anton wasn't always right, and they certainly broke the mold when they made him, but I learned a lot from him, and we will definitely miss him on the CBOC. He taught me a lot. I want to come back and talk about the positions that were recommended for cut on the December 16th, 2023 meeting. I want to record just some thoughts about that and go on the record to say that I am absolutely not in favor of cutting SCAL positions, especially bilingual SCAL positions. I cannot tell you how many SPSAs I've read that are crying for bilingual people in our schools, and I just cannot, in good conscience, look at that. I also have a great concern about the BAM positions, and in an exchange with staff, I said, like, what's going on with this? And it said that, the response was that music teachers are considered supplemental positions. If we are no longer able to afford the positions in our base program and we opt to reduce these positions, then VAPA or school sites could choose to rehire these positions with other funding sources. So first, I do not believe that maybe some band people are supplemental, but not all. And then I really have a concern about flipping this over to Prop 28, which is, I think, what people are trying to do. And I really want to encourage you to look closely and get legal counsel on that, because I do not believe that that is correct. The next thing is that I want to talk about the superintendent's report for just a second, which is what I'd really like to do is encourage superintendent to think differently about this report. And so I'd like his report to be a report, but for like Ms. Johnson's piece, which was absolutely fantastic, like I didn't know it was coming. I didn't see it. I wasn't able to formulate any questions. And when you do this as a report, I can't ask any questions. So I would like to have these wonderful topics listed as discussions so that we can ask questions about them. And then finally, I want fundraising, all board policies related to fundraising agendized for discussion. And I don't go to my one-on-ones because it's not a safe space for me. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get me back into that. Until then, I'm going to pull every consent item and we're going to talk about it right here.
Trustee Gonzalez-Soy, or I'm sorry, Clerk Gonzalez-Soy, go ahead.
Thank you, President Smith-Folds. First of all, thank you for leading us through this meeting. I thought you were incredibly professional, and you led us through a very difficult conversation tonight. So I wanted to thank you for your leadership. You're already proving to be an excellent president for our board. Our student trustees, I want to thank you again for your leadership. Wish you the best in your next journeys. About the budget, I want to quickly thank Ms. Moses, your staff, all of cabinet, your staff, Dr. Hurst, of course. I know you're all working night and day to figure out our budget. I know that these decisions are not easy. We just met with labor for long hours yesterday trying to figure out the new list. Thankfully, SCOUs have been reduced from the list. So I'm thankful for that. And I know that there's been some management and positions added to support that. So there's so much work happening behind the scenes, and I'm thankful that we're gonna start making the community budget meetings so that people are able to see that work. This is not easy, but unfortunately we have to make a decision because the consequences are so much dire, so much worse. So I ask everybody to please tune into the budget conversations that are gonna be happening, that Ms. Moses and her staff are going to be hosting in the next couple of weeks, because the board is going to be voting on a list of cuts on the January 24th meeting. I want to thank our labor partners who are also working night and day to figure out what positions need to be supported, which positions should be moved, reconciling our books, all of our positions. It has not been easy work. And as we saw today from the governor, Ms. Moses, unfortunately, the budget for the state of California, even though a little bit better than was said a month ago, is still worse than we were expecting 6 months ago, including the COLA that was really going to support our deficit. And unfortunately, it came much, much lower than what we were hoping for. I also want to acknowledge that the El Cerrito High School family and Pinole Valley High School family have been going through a lot with the death of our two students. And I want to thank them both these communities for everything they're doing to wrap their arms around the families and each other that are going through that, because I know it's not easy to lose a student and a valued member of our community. So my heart goes to them. And I really ask everybody to please tune into this budget conversations, which potentially could change, the priorities of our district. Again, thank you, President Smith Folds.
Thank you. Trustee Phillips.
Thank you very much. I want to go back very briefly to the contract questions that I was asking earlier in the meeting. So it was said that Educational Services Associate Superintendent, that contract hasn't been signed by all parties. The next two questions were for Business Services and HR. So the interim associate superintendents for them as well. I know we're not asking questions right now, but since the first one for Ed Services is not signed, the other two may not be signed either. I bring this up because we have had a lot of turnover in those positions preceding you, but we've also had turnover in those positions since you've been here. And it's extremely important that we keep these people. Now, I'm going to say this because I don't make anybody nervous. I haven't talked to any of these people, okay? I've not called any of them. I've not asked them, has this happened? I'm doing it because I know that we're moving into recruiting season. And when somebody gets into these positions, bless you. No, bless you. But when somebody gets into these positions and they get seasoned as a CBO, as the head HR person, as, the head Ed Services person, those people end up getting recruited. And we've trained a lot of people in this district that have gone other places because we didn't do whatever we were supposed to do. And so my request for an agenda item is for us to have a presentation on those three positions in specific, whether those contracts have been signed. And if part of that conversation has to happen in closed session, I don't know. But I would like to have whether there's a contract or not, that's public information. So I would like to know publicly whether those have been signed. Maybe the closed session conversation is if they haven't been signed, why? Because I don't want to lose, these people. The next thing that I want to very briefly say in my last 30 seconds is there's more and more conversation happening around music. I still think that we should have a serious conversation about a performing arts school. I think it would increase revenue for the district, and it would guarantee that some of these music programs that we're talking about live on. And the last thing that I want to say is we need to have a conversation about safety. If a shooting happens on the sidewalk in front of the school, it's still at the school. And we just had a shooting at Richmond High. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Trustee Phillips. Dr. Hurst, did you want to respond before I moved on?
Just wanted to say that they have been signed, all except for one. And we did have a conversation, the one individual that has not signed that, about having it signed immediately. So that would definitely happen.
So it would be nice, and I know that can't happen in here in this space. It might be, I would kind of like to know why it hadn't been signed, right? Because that was 6 months ago. And if there's an issue with it, rather than forcing somebody to sign something because I brought it up, I would like to know what the issue is, because there's clearly an issue. Or I would assume there's an issue because it was 6 months ago.
Okay, so just 1 second. So instead of assuming, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have those questions answered. I don't think anybody was forced to do anything. So we're gonna have those questions answered. Trustee Phillips, I heard you, I've got it on for a future agenda item. And we will discuss how to bring that back, whether it's closed session, open session, or both closed session and open session.
Thank you.
Dr. Hirsch, you also wrote it down. I saw that you also wrote it down. So we will move on because we are now on trustee Christian and we are running out of time. So trustee
Thank you.
Christian, you're welcome. Trustee Christian?
Yes, thank you. I'm just going to be very brief. First of all, I just want to just welcome everybody back, after the holidays. And we are in a new year of 2024, and we're charting new territory. And I just want to just say, we got a lot of challenges that, we are faced with. So we have to continue to, keep our focus on the right things and making sure that we, achieve the things we're trying to do. And I also want to thank our student trustees. They did a wonderful job. And it's like every time we get student trustees, it's time for them to, shift gears, leave us. And so just to say is that, we as a board, just have to stay, stay committed and stay focused. And also I want to mention, I take my time out to go to a lot of schools and so forth, and do school visits. But also what I'm going to do is throw this challenge out to any students, anybody who loves to play chess. I'm a chess player, and I would like to challenge anybody to a game of chess. And if you beat me, I will have a gift certificate for you. So that's my challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I had a kind of list of things that I wanted to say. I wanted to welcome you back to the new year. I wanted to say thank you to our student trustees. I wanted to always ring the bell for volunteerism, but what I am going to talk about is what's a safe space. When we create safe spaces, we create safe spaces under the guise of that everyone is able to be their authentic self. You can disagree without being disagreeable. You can say what needs to be said. You can ask questions. You can make comments. That's the safe space that has been created under the guise of the board. We have one-on-ones because those one-on-ones, or sometimes two-on-ones, those one-on-ones and those two-on-ones allow board members to have a deep dive into the agenda, to get questions answered, and to encourage staff that, hey, maybe this should go on your presentation because this is a question that I think my community wants the answer to. Or this is a question that would help other board members make a very informed decision. Those one-on-ones or those two-on-ones are via Zoom. They are not held in person. They are held over Zoom. Over the last 3 years, we have all got to know Zoom very well. Zoom has the ability to turn a camera off. Zoom has the ability to mute ourselves. Zoom has the ability to do a myriad of things. When we come to our closed sessions, they're in person. You are sitting across from that person and you are having conversations, you are asking questions. In my humble opinion, it is disingenuous to say that a Zoom meeting is not a safe space, but a closed session meeting where you are next to people is a safe space. I will continue to encourage the board to have one-on-ones in Zoom, that we have maintained a safe space for those one-on-one meetings to occur. I will go further to encourage board members to come to our closed session meetings so you can further have questions answered and can further deep dive into what we are discussing. Finally, you have the right as a board member to pull any consent item. The level of decorum that I'm going to ask for gently and demand without umbrage, demand without question, is that we refrain from banging on the table to get anybody's attention or to drive our point home. This is rude. I say that because I mean it. Because one thing I know for sure and two things I know for certain. There's going to be a level of respect that we have to maintain as a board. If you need to say something, say it. If you need to pull something, pull it. If you need to have an affirmative voice, have it. If you need to raise your voice to a level that's acceptable, feel free to do that. But there's only one way to bang on that table, and it's with this gavel. I am 100% complete. Thank you for listening. We are now moving on to board reflection and feedback. This is a new thing that we're doing. Each board member will have 1 minute, and we need to put that clock up, please. Thank you. 1 minute to address the area that went well in the meeting and an area that needs change or improvement. You do not have to take this opportunity, but it is an opportunity for us to have a level of self-reflection and to do better every single board meeting. Is there any board member that would like to take the opportunity to have their reflection and their feedback spoken out loud for 1 minute? And again, we want to address things that went well in an area of growth, change, or improvement. Do I have any board member wanting to do that? Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you, President Smith-Folds. This is a wonderful idea. For a positive, I will say that I think that meeting was led, as I mentioned, in a really great way through a very difficult conversation. So the chair did a really great job at getting us through that, and you did it with professionalism. I think an area of growth for all of us is continuing to ask questions before the board meeting, and ensuring that we don't interrupt each other. And I did that tonight to another board member, so I do apologize for that. So I want to be self-reflective on that, and be outspoken about the areas of growth that we all have to continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Any other board member want to take that minute to have board reflection or feedback? Trustee Phillips, go ahead, please.
A lot happened tonight. Whether folks agree with it or disagree with it, I think everyone can agree that even though the agenda was not long, a lot happened. And I'm still, to be honest, processing some of it. I'm sad right now. And I've been on a lot of boards with a lot of people. I probably will address this a little later. I just need to process.
Thank you so much, Trustee Phillips. Anyone else? No? Okay, I'll go ahead and go. Board, one of the things that went well is that we showed today that hard does not mean impossible. You are able to have hard conversations. You are able to do hard things. You are able to speak with authenticity. Hard is not impossible. I know that we have categorized this meeting as hard. Hard is not impossible. We got through it. Whether you call it unity or lack of, we got through it. And that's what we are charged to do. Once again, I will say that we are duty bound and determined that we have to be able to get through hard things, especially when we know that there is a journey to march. This is not going to be the only difficult conversation that we are going to have as a board and as a staff, but what we showed tonight is that you can get through it. A point of growth and self-reflection. I try very hard to keep the 4 agreements. It's one of the things that keeps me grounded. I think that tonight, one of the 4 agreements that I worked on is not taking it personal. So that's one of the 4. A point of growth, I will have to continue to work on that 4th agreement of not taking it personal because it is a challenge for me. It is a challenge for me not to take things personal, but I'm growing in that. And this position as a board member has helped me grow in that immensely. So I continue to want to grow in that part of my personal development. So board, thank you for all that you do to help me become a better version of myself. I really appreciate it. Okay, board, that's it. The next scheduled regular board meeting is on January the 24th, 2024. It will be at Livonia Dejan Middle School. We are adjourned at 10:28. We are adjourned. If I ring it again, does that put it back?